Evening, everyone. I'm Mike O'Reilly, the Chairman of the Town of Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission. This is our regular meeting for November the 16th, 2023. It is 7:03 p.m. If you'll please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have to seat somebody. All right. I'm going to start by calling the roll, starting on my right.
Dominic Smergalino, alternate commissioner.
Dan Ambrosi, commissioner.
Robert Westland, commissioner.
Bill Holsworth, staff.
Sarah Stroud, recording secretary.
Okay. So we're going to see Dominic tonight's meeting. Right now we'll have general public participation period. If anyone in the audience, either live or online, has any comments for the commission on subjects not before the commission, this is the time to do that. Please raise your hands. Come on down to the front and just state your name and address for the record.
Kathy Lindstrom, 298 Guinea Road. A couple of questions, comments. Last time I was here, it was mentioned that you were going to be receiving reports from the zoning enforcement officers, and just wondering if you're getting those.
We don't have any report tonight.
No, but have you been getting them?
Bill, have we been getting them?
Have we been getting what? I'm sorry.
Reports, updates from the zoning enforcement officer. Last time I was here, I brought that up and told that had been a plan. When I was on planning and zoning, we used to get them regularly. So that we could see what we're being able to get people to complain. So I'm just kind of following up on that. I'm questioning the renovations that's going on Bart Center, which thank goodness is happening, so whatever they do. But I'm wondering if that's something that should have been or will be brought up to the ARB.
When an application comes in, it will be brought to the ARB for their review.
They've already started the renovation, the updating on Bart Center.
There's been no application that I've seen for it yet.
Drive by this. They enclose the columns, and they've also put up what looks like white.
They probably have a building permit for that, and I don't believe building permits go before the ARB.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm just, following up on it. Because I also have not seen any signs of any zoning enforcement. Proliferation of signs, downtown, banners, and everything else is great. The best in backyards have lights that are shining in my eyes as I drive down Route 25. They're supposed to be angled in such a way that they not only don't shine in my eyes, but they don't shine on the property. So I'd like that checked. Also, I'm questioning, there's a new business going in where Center Auto used to be, which was previously a gas station, and then it became, they stopped selling gas. Now, or for many years, we're doing car repairs. And now there's a sign there that says it's got to be a collision place. Collision businesses are not allowed in the B1 zone. They've already started to renovate the building or whatever they have to do to get it up to code, and I wonder how that happened. We could have a non-conforming business. Was that approved? How did it happen?
Now,
There is a sign there that says it's.
Somebody handle it?
well, you can handle it, but it's a work in progress right now.
Okay, so you're aware of it?
I'm aware of it. I know the rest of the commission is not aware of it, but I'm aware of it.
Okay, because there is a sign, it doesn't say coming soon, but it does say there's a business coming in that doesn't belong there.
And there's also information in the commissioner's packets for this evening in my staff update that'll talk to that.
I'm sorry, I did not know that was going to be on tonight.
It's a staff update. It wouldn't be on the agenda.
And then I was just curious about any word on filling any vacancies in the land use department. I know the vacancies.
There is.
Huh?
The zoning administrator, planning and zoning administrator is a vacant spot. We extended an offer to somebody earlier this week and they've accepted.
Oh, great, I'm glad to hear that. Good. Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Lindstrom. And we'll let the record show that Commissioner Mayini and Commissioner Lupo have joined us. All right. Is there anybody else in the audience that has any comments? Would like to address the commission? Anyone online? Raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, then we'll go back to the agenda, public hearings. First, we have RAA 2023-10, 588 Pepper Street. That was closed, I believe, at our last meeting, correct?
Yeah, we closed it and we asked for Bill to write up a favorable.
All right.
So we were waiting for, just we struck some things out of it, so we were just waiting for the
All
write-up
right.
before
We have that before us, so we'll move that down to deliberations and determinations. It's not another public hearing tonight. So the first public hearing tonight will be ZCA 2023-05 to 60. That's 215 Monroe Turnpike. Do you have the notice by any chance? Ryan usually reads the notices that were posted in the,
I do not have the notice. All I have is it's on the agenda, the stuff that's on the agenda.
okay,
I don't have a notice.
this is what posted, I imagine, correct?
They were.
Okay,
They were.
I don't know if you mentioned, but Ryan did say Dom Smart is.
he is, we already seated
See it
him.
done.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, so then,
is it 1, 2, 3?
Notice of public hearing.
We have to read it, I think.
do you want to read it? Traditionally, we read it, I'm not sure if it's a requirement.
Notice of public hearing, property address 215 Monroe Turnpike, proposed project, O'Reilly Auto Parts Store, ZCA-2023-05, file number 1026D, 215 Monroe Turnpike. Zone boundary change petition application from LOR with MDD overlay to SDD at 215 Monroe Turnpike. Date of public hearing, November 16, 2023, at 7 p.m. via Zoom, in person and electronically via Zoom meeting. Application number ZCA-2023-05, file number 1026E. Location of meeting, 7 Fan Hill Road, Monroe, Connecticut, Town Hall Conference Chambers at 7 p.m. and Zoom.
Thank you. And for the applicant?
Read this stuff.
Good evening, Commission. Chaz Evans with Fuller Engineering, licensed in Connecticut professional engineer at 65 LaSalle Road, West Hartford. Just, I guess, a point of question on the public hearing. We were going to hear the zone change at the same time as the special exception.
Well, we open and close them separately, but you can combine your presentation, yes, if they are integral.
I have big boards, 24 by 36, if the commission would like, I can pull those out.
Because he can't see these.
Do you have,
I have a presentation as well that'll be up on this.
yeah, that's fine. You can do put the board up for the public later if you want.
Mr. Chair, I was requested to provide you with a copy of the MDD and the SDD regulations as they stand today, and those are in your supplementary packet as the first document on your supplementary packet.
Okay, but put these on.
Yes, sir. You need to stand?
I got two in there, if it works easier on the stand. Easier for you guys.
As long as we can see it up there, we're good.
If you're going to put it up there, we're good.
Yeah, everything that's there is up there.
Perfect. Thank you.
With me tonight as well is Rich Roberts with Halloran and Sage, project attorney, who will be walking through the SDD regs and how the project itself complies with the SDD narrative that was written with the application.
You're like,
So for reference, the property at 215 Monroe Turnpike, currently an existing vacant lot, about 0.97 acres. Previously had a house on it, one access drive onto Monroe Turnpike, and in town historical records had a septic system in the front yard. What we're proposing here is a 6,453 square foot O'Reilly Auto Park retail store. With that, currently the site is zoned LOR, limited office retail, does permit general retail. But when you look at the setbacks and you look at the restrictions onto the shape of the site, you end up being restricted to not much of a store or a parking lot or access in general. So to give you background on this one, which some of you probably know, is we met with the zoning rules subcommittee back in August and September to walk through a couple of concepts, a couple of layouts, see some feedback, and that's kind of what got us to previous layouts had the entrance drive closer to the signal. We since pulled back from the signal, significantly reduced previously retaining walls, and provided additional landscape buffering up against the adjacent residential. So again, this would not comply with the typical LOR underlay for the existing district, but is why we're proposing the SDD that been submitted that provides a residential buffer, different setbacks on the side and front. To give you a little bit of walk around the site, currently proposing 25 parking spaces to serve the site in the LOR district in terms of general retail. Otherwise, that requires 36 parking spaces. Their demand, they feel that 25 is sufficient. And then including with the town engineer who asked about loading space, the temporary loading will occur and the WB50 truck would pull in back next to the loading bay, unload, and then head back out onto Monroe Turnpike. So there isn't a formal designated official striped loading space, but it's more of a temporary loading up by the back of the site in the loading dock, still providing parking for patrons front and side if that were to occur. The store would be in a busier time. Overall, the system had the development has one underground infiltration basin, which is proposed in the front yard here. And then we currently proposed in our coordination with the health department, one round of testing has been completed for a proposed septic system up in the front parking lot, which provided favorable septic results. And again, working with them on finalizing that design. Also with this, we provide water quality through hydrodynamic separators, mechanical system before it hits the underground system. which then drains out into the current existing Monroe Turnpike conveyance system for stormwater. One of the items that has been discussed and read town engineer's letters come up, had good dialogue on the retaining wall that's on the adjacent part of the property, or on the edge of the property against the adjacent Panera. The current need for that is that there's about 19 feet engagement out of the site to the other side of the site. So obviously to provide a flat pad on top of the site that's heavily sloping. The retaining wall happens to end up in this back here. We are working with O'Reilly to discuss the grading easement, which would, and working with the engineer, would eliminate the need for a significant portion of the wall. Obviously, that's the process currently not permitted with just within the meaning of our site. So in terms of the zone change itself, as I mentioned, currently the property is zoned LOR within the Main Street Design District, which allows us to then apply for an SDD. We'd be looking to formally change the zoning map to, which would be SDD number 4. It is approximately a 1 acre district size, goes out to the center line of Monroe Turnpike. This again is, as I mentioned before, our existing constraints. The site itself, if you took the setbacks, front, side, and rear setbacks, you're left with about 14,000 square foot, a little more of developable area, which given the existing building proposed at about 7,000 square feet would take up half of that entire developed area and doesn't leave nearly any room to have feasible parking and circulation around the site. With that, I will turn it over to Attorney Roberts, just kind of walk through again, I'll pull up the rendering and how the SDD applies to this site.
Thanks very much. As Mr. Evans mentioned, basically, this is a non-conforming undersized lot in the zone, and that as an alternative to trying to seek variances that really have no support, we followed the advice of the former town planner and are, creating an SDD similar to one that had been approved recently. Essentially, it's not changing the uses that are permitted in the zone. It's still general retail, which would be permitted otherwise. Basically, the only things that are being changed are the lot size and the setback requirements, and some of the other dimensional requirements that would permit, an economically viable development of this site for a commercial purpose. One of the other things that it does is it reduces the standard parking requirements for the LOR zone, so that less of the site is being used for parking than would otherwise be the case. The expectation is that really only 17 to 20 spaces are being generally required. This provides 25 as opposed to the 33 that would be required under the existing zoning for a building this size. The rationale for this zone change is also consistent with the land use and zoning and the economic development provisions of your POCD, which call for flexibility in zoning to allow for smaller lots and reduce setbacks, to recruit proactively the businesses, to allow development along 25 and 111, and also to kind of guide development to be where the infrastructure exists. And we believe that the proposed SDD does all of these things and is therefore, consistent with the POCD and, accomplishes what you're looking for. As I said, the uses are the same as in the LOR zone. Minimum lot area, we've chosen the lot area of the site. Minimum district size is 1 acre, which we slightly exceed when you go to the middle of the road, which is consistent with how the zone change has been approved on the prior SDD. It reduces the front yard and it reduces the setbacks. And generally, otherwise, it's, consistent with the LOR zone and, provides for, landscape buffers and so forth, provides for regulations on the number of signs, and it gives you relatively strict control over how the site is developed, but still allows it to be developed, in an economically viable way based on, the configuration, the topography, and the size.
Just to give the commission a little bit of context, we are scheduled to go before the ARB next Tuesday on the 21st. Previously, we were scheduled to go last Tuesday. To be able to give you some updates, but I guess the quorum pushed it to next Tuesday. So we look forward to obtaining ARB's input next Tuesday. With that being said, I do have the architectural elevations. Similar in context to the Noble Gas and the Panera that's within that stretch. O'Reilly is going with a stone facade at the base, a beige facade up, and then their prototypical red and the green signage within their site. Given that the site's kind of shaped facing towards the neighbor as an entrance, they're looking to put signage on both sides so that you can see it coming up Monroe Turnpike ahead of time and not kind of catching the driveway after you pass the store. For an overall height, the building itself is 19 feet tall to the parapet. There are currently proposed HVAC units above that building. And that was a piece we had to consider with the buffer we're providing and the spacing we're providing to that residential property that abuts us. To give you a bit of context, the top of the site, the north side of the site where the residential property is about 10 feet higher than where the building's currently proposed. So with a 19-foot tall building, if you were standing in that neighbor's backyard, you'd see about a 9-foot building, which now we're proposing a row of 18 evergreen trees that are staggered, not in a straight line where you're going to get gaps between. And again, that we feel provides a buffer that, again, the plants, as they would be right off the bat, would be about 6 to 7 feet tall. And we'd anticipate those evergreens to go 10, 20 feet tall, which would fully screen a 19-foot building with mechanical units up top. So that's essentially the gist of, again, both the zone change and what we're proposing. Like I said, we've gone through with the town engineer. They've reviewed the letter, provided a couple comments, back and forth in the dialogue. And like I said, the main sticking point with the engineering department is the retaining wall that's on the western side, and we're looking to work with the neighboring property owner to hopefully obtain an easement and reduce that concern.
How's that going to work?
In terms of a grading easement. So the site, from the grading as itself, we need to cut into the site. So from the Panera, there's a steep hill that comes up about 8 feet. And then our site actually sits down 6 or 8 feet. So the site comes up, flattens out into our first part of our property, then drops down. You would essentially be taking out 4 to 5 feet of this hill that would soften the Panera hill. Again, if we're amenable to the adjoining owner, would soften that slope and be more in line with the side of the O'Reilly development. So again, if that's not feasible, then the wall's still there, and the engineer had put in his letter about coordinating with geotech and hopefully getting a memo to discuss feasibility of that wall with the adjacent building foundation and stormwater drainage that runs through it. So with that, that's, our presentation for now. I'd open up to any questions.
Is that your presentation for the zone change and the SEP?
Correct.
I just have a letter from the Conservation and Water Resources Commission. Did you see that letter?
I do not have that.
Okay. I imagine I just have it here. They just would like me to ask you to review building plans that you could possibly use a green roof versus a conventional roof. Have you thought of, or have you done any green roofs?
I know O'Reilly's historically has not done the green roof. I know that there's currently different definitions of the green roof. In terms of having plants or turf or anything like that, that's not something that's typically economically feasible given the structural components that go in with that. But there are different other components that can go with a green roof in terms of using the white on top instead of a black roof from a solar reflectivity. So I'd be happy to, if they have more context in terms of what definition of green roof. Definitely something to look into. We can provide some feedback at the next hearing.
I think they'd like you to decide if there are any, if there's anything that you could utilize. Green roofs have longer lifespans than conventional roofs and save energy. If regulate the building's internal temperature, reducing energy cost. They reduce the heat island effects, air pollution and atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. They can catch a large amount of rain, reducing stormwater runoff.
At the current time, a green roof in that sense that would have plantings and anything like that isn't currently proposed.
Something less than that would be painting it white or?
Correct, just using a white top as opposed to a black top.
Any other things that you can think of?
Solar's been more common in terms of adding more of a sustainability piece to it. We have seen recently that there's between fire code and having solar on the roof, there's still kind of a little bit of a back and forth that needs to be worked out. The solar is definitely something that obviously the state's pushing and something we're, not currently considered, but if it's a green roof, then it's something that has to be looked into.
Something that you could do. Okay. On your planting schedule, there are 3 plants that are not native. Are you familiar with that? Those 3 plants?
3 specific ones there.
Sporinia bumalda, Anthony waterer is potentially invasive. It can escape from cultivation and naturalize in areas. They're asking for a native shrub. And then Amicrosa autoflora and Pensitarium allopeculiarides. Native grasses should be selected in place of these non-native grasses.
Good job.
We can replace those plants.
Okay, great.
I will take, if I have a chance to copy that one down.
Yeah, I can get this to you. Okay, that's all my correspondence. I think we go to the public. At this point, I see Miller has his hand raised. Is there a way we can turn Mr. Miller on?
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, we can hear you, Mr. Miller. Just your address for the record.
I own the property next door, which is 227 Monroe Turnpike, the Legacy Investments, Adam Miller Agency building, the other side of Panera.
Yes.
So I was interested I see that there's some shrubs being put on the backside of the building. It's not really clear what's being done on the property line there. It's a little gnarly right now, and it looks like the intent is to leave some trees there, which a lot of debris comes off those trees, and if you're going to have a parking lot there, I'm wondering if removing those existing, maybe there's 6 or 7 trees, might be a good idea. And I don't know if they're on the property line. I just want to make sure that that you guys know I'm not opposed to having those trees removed, and I'm not opposed to the project either. But I just want to make sure that whatever's put between the project and my property is aesthetically pleasing.
You put up the landscape plan?
Sure, so I actually, the rendering here shows it as well. We are proposing to keep the 6 canopy trees that are along that eastern property boundary.
I'm not even sure. I believe they might not even be on your property, but I'm not sure. I have to look. I think some of them may be, and some of them may be on the line. But I just, a lot of debris comes off of those, and if you're going to have cars parked right under them, you're going to have probably some issues, and it might make more sense to remove the trees and have a little continuity with your other shrubs.
Can consider that.
Sure, yeah, I know the two in question here, there were 6 that had showed up on our survey. Actually, within the trunks are within the property limits that we have, obviously the canopies and the overhang. The 4 we are, critical on saving are the ones that are up on the corner. I would kind of tie into the buffer against residential. But I do understand the 2 that are adjacent into the condition of those trees, and whether it makes sense to plant something.
Yeah, I believe there's 6 up against the parking lot, and then yeah, there are a couple that aren't really close to the parking lot, so aren't really an issue. But and there's a stone wall. I'm just trying to see where, I guess the stone wall is is in between the dotted line and the solid line. Is that?
The stone wall looks to be slightly on your property, and then there are some trees there that we are proposing to remove that are just on the edge, and we're proposing, as the grading allows us, to keep 2 of those trees. But there are some of them that were on that property line that were being proposed to be removed.
Yeah. I'd love to see them all go, to be honest with you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Miller. So you have no objection to them removing the trees?
No, I don't, and I'm not opposed to the project. It looks like a nice project, and I wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Anyone else, either here in person or online, that would like to comment on this project? Yes. Come right forward and state your name and address for the record.
Barbara Thomas, Greenwood Road, Monroe.
I mispronounced the names.
Sorry?
I mispronounced the names of the plants.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to, that's fine. And we do appreciate.
I thought you did a good job.
Native plants, that'd be great. I did want to address the issue of a green roof. And I'm not an engineer, I don't design roofs, about that, but I've read a lot about it. White might also reflect some of the heat. But if this was, we certainly would want something better than a conventional roof. But in looking at the application, I did go online and look at the O'Reilly Auto Parts site, and it looks like a great company. It's very large. As of September 30th of 2023, they had 6,063 retail locations in the U.S. They've been in business for 65 years. And as of November of 2023, they have a market capitalization or market value of outstanding shares of well over $57 billion. So it's a big company. Looks like financials are good. The stock has been doing quite well. And you know that a company of this size doesn't pick a location by just randomly. So they're doing analysis to find out what's the best location, and they're going to pick them based on what's profitable for them, which is great. Good company. I think, if it moves forward, it'd be a great addition to Monroe. But I think we need to ask for something also. They're asking for some changes here that you may approve, you may not approve. But I think to get some of those, we should be able to ask, the town should be able to ask for some things. I think doing more to help the environment, to help Monroe, would be great. And green roofs are offset. I think you did read some of that it helps offset because of the insulation, helps offset the energy costs for heating and cooling. The roofs last longer. And the heat island effect is really an important thing because the asphalt and the roof are really just, absorbing heat and then reflecting it. And there's numbers, I don't have those in front of me, but you can look them up. It's online, easily found, of how hot it is, midsummer when you've got, getting more 90-degree days and you've got a hot roof and asphalt and so forth. What the difference is when you put a green roof on a building. So the heat island effect is really an important thing to look at. And if the more trees we can add, the more, if we do more green roofs on a lot of buildings that are coming in. And I do appreciate that there's more cost up front for a green roof, but they pretty much help to pay for themselves over time. So I'm assuming that if they're building a building, they don't expect to come in and leave in a very short period of time. They're probably expecting to be here for decades, I would hope. And so a conventional roof might, whatever life that has, if it's 15, 20 years and they have to replace it, a green roof will have a longer life. So it does, the cost to offset. And the initial cost is higher, but for a company that has, a valuation or capitalization of 57 billion, I'm thinking that maybe they can stretch a little bit to find a way to do a green roof. So just wanted to add that, but I appreciate it.
Can I ask you just one question, and forgive my ignorance on this, but can you walk us through what a green roof is?
Sure, and they do take different forms. I mean, again, I don't design these things, but there's all sorts of information. If you look up the SLA, it's the American Association of Landscape Architects, and they have quite a bit of information on it. And so they do have to be, the building itself has to have a firmer, be able to support a heavier roof. So there's cost in that. And then there's a lot more involved in the underlayment of the roof because you are putting soil, and obviously what that's designed to do is there are going to be plants on that, and that can take different forms. There are places like large buildings that would have trees or large shrubs on them. A lot of the smaller buildings are really going to have short plants on them.
So you're actually talking about having topsoil and plants?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're designed to obviously hold the water to not leak into the building, and the heavier underlayment, I don't even know what all that is called, but it does last a lot longer because it's also insulated. You're not getting the sun. So, all of our houses and all of the commercial buildings that are getting sun pounding down on them all the time, that helps it deteriorate it. So this has, soil and plants on it. And it's just cool. If you step on your driveway and step on your grass, obviously it's a lot cooler on the grass. And that's basically the same thing with the green roof. And it also helps wildlife. I mean, I've read things about, birds that are nesting on the green roofs. And, obviously there's all sorts of insects that live there. So it's really, I don't want to say it's a little park, but I mean, you really are adding a lot of natural area to a developed area. So they're done a lot in other countries. It's really a pretty common thing. And if you look it up, you will see a number of places, like a lot of universities, doing some hospitals, a lot of bigger buildings along that line.
Is it typically maintained and mowed, or is it just left to grow?
There is maintenance. There's maintenance on everything. So, regular roofs don't just last forever. I'm sure they, you still have to observe what's going on with them to make sure it's not going to be torn or leaking or anything along that line. So there is some maintenance. The first couple of years, from what I understand, from what I've read, they do require some. You have to make sure they're watered before, so that they get established. But they put in plants that are not going to be very maintenance intensive.
Right.
And then once they're established, again, you do need to look at it periodically, just to make sure everything's living and surviving, and everything needs to get replaced. But it's somewhat low maintenance once they get established.
Sounds like quite an ask.
It really is not. Nothing's no maintenance, right? And there's some more cost up front, but it pays for itself in other ways. You even might, and again, I don't have the engineering programs to be able to run this stuff, but when you look at the runoff from a roof, and then you have to put underground detention basins that will, let the water soak back into the ground, or you have to have above ground things for water treatment things. This takes a lot of the water and soaks it in, and then you might be able to have less of the stormwater management systems. So there's offsets. If somebody were able to run the numbers on one project and say, here it is with green roof and here it is with conventional roof, I'd be very curious to see the numbers as to how different it is.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to comment on this project? Anyone online that would like to comment on this project? If not, we'll go to the commissioners, starting on my right.
Yeah. How often you guys get deliveries and what time of day usually?
So typically O'Reilly's gets deliveries 5 days a week. Typically they try to be on off-peak hours, but again, it's, whether that's 10 o'clock, whether that's 2 o'clock. But as we know, from a truck driver standpoint, I can't guarantee that someone's not going to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock at night, finishing out a run. It really becomes a demand type of thing. Trash for them is minimal. It's only once a week. So you're not going to have, dumpsters coming 2-3 times and banging down the doors, many of the garbage uses.
As far as deliveries, the plan is to have the tractor trailer back in.
Right.
And as far as the building facade and elevations, how married are you guys to that look? So is that a steel building?
It is. Steel in the front, stone on the bottom. It's slightly different than the O'Reilly prototypical that they go with. Again, they've added stone, knowing that, how the corridor is kind of looking, trying to match the corridor. But again, open to feedback of the commission as well as the ARP.
Just like it to look a little bit more colonial, I guess, slightly. That's all for me.
Any certain features or pieces to?
Just so it doesn't look too much like a box, you know what I mean? That's all for me.
Okay. Commissioner Ambrosi. Yeah, I just got a question. Didn't we change the minimum size for the district? Didn't we change the language?
We have not yet adjusted that in our regulations.
Voted on that.
That was the and/or, and we took the or out, right?
Yeah,
I thought we did vote on that also.
we did vote on it.
I'll have to look into it. I'll have to look into it.
After the last debacle, we looked into it. I thought we.
Yeah, we already voted on that.
There was an and/or that was.
We got rid of it.
I recall, I just don't know if it's been completed.
Okay.
Staff that worked on that is no longer with us. So I just don't know what they've done, what they haven't done, where they were with it, but I'll look into it.
Yeah, that was definitely,
I recall
it
it.
started with Rick and then Dylan, and so it's all,
Exactly my point.
no, 100%.
So you're only 0.97 of an acre here?
Correct.
And you're trying to use the center line of the road like the other application did?
Correct.
Well, he's going to look into that, but I believe that we voted that out, or got rid of it, but I don't know if it ever went through. So, but also, what's your setbacks here? Your side setback, what do you got? 20 feet there? 10? On the left-hand side?
25, 5.
What is it?
5 feet of what we're proposing for the side yard setback.
It's only 5 feet?
Correct, but that's to the retaining wall itself, and then to the parking on the
No, I'm talking off the property line. What do you have?
Sure, so we're proposing a.
5 feet from the
5
property
feet
line?
From the property line to the retaining wall.
Well, the minimum on the side lot is 30.
Correct.
Correct. And so you want this commission to change that for you to 5 feet?
5 foot, because the retaining wall would be considered, yes, and then be parking.
See what happens with that is that we have to change the zone to allow this. And I mean, I guess that in LR, it's a minimum of 1.5 acres, right? The LR zone? I believe, because I can read your thing over here. Minimum lot size is 1.5 acres.
It's one, isn't it?
It's one.
Yeah.
We could change it. I'm saying to you, we have to change it.
Right, he came in for a zone change and.
Right. Well, I'm saying he doesn't meet any of the setbacks.
You don't have to with the MDD. That's
We mean, you don't have to meet any of them.
the setbacks we determine by each individual project. But the 1 acre is something that we can change, I believe.
I believe we can't change it either. I mean, hey, did you read,
You got the old school ruler, I love it. I love it, quarter inch scale, I love it.
well, so basically you're gonna leave this open anyway, because you're gonna have to leave it open because you gotta go, but you need to have like a, building has to have some kind of New England character to it. It can't be, you know, I've seen some of your buildings that you put up, and some of them do have New England character to them, but this building doesn't have any of that. It's not even close to that. So, I don't know what, I guess that they should be instructed too. ARB should know that this regulation allows.
Let them know.
I mean, that's their job, isn't it? The parking.
Well, no, but they,
They should.
but I don't know because, well, it's like the other one passed had none of that.
Oh, the Dunkin' Donuts, right.
So, Donuts nor the
Hey,
Starbucks
listen,
had.
maybe the ARB doesn't understand what they need to do.
Well, they need to know what the regulation says. We're gonna change the zone. And then like I told you, I have issues with the setbacks. You can't move the building out, I mean, 5 feet off the property line.
No, so we had actually.
They already did.
We had looked at twisting the building. And so the building itself at a point, and again, the building's not, parallel to the property on the side. The building itself is about 12 feet back from here. The reason for the 5 foot setback is because of the retaining wall there, and then because of parking. Scale here, the building itself from the eastern property line is about 75 feet.
And the parking lot is how much off the?
The parking lot there is about 5 feet from like the pinch point. So it's a retaining wall in the parking lot that created, again, the building here, 12 feet, 75 feet back here.
And what do you have in the rear, 50?
In the rear is 40.
40 in the rear? So you took away
50's in the.
10 off the rear.
Correct.
You took
25 off the side.
side, and then. That's all I have for now, open anyway.
May need.
So I do remember when you came into the subcommittee and we discussed moving that building forward,
Correct.
like closer to the road. You don't think if you move it closer to the road or center it more to the property that you could accommodate some of the setbacks a little bit better? Let's be honest, we have to, it's a planning and zoning commission, right? So if their lease comes up in 5, 10, 20, 50 years, we have to worry about the next person, right? So for an O'Reilly Auto Parts, in my head, only one commissioner, I think you don't need 30 parking spaces, right? Generally, you don't have, unless you just have a massive sale on brakes, I don't see the whole parking lot being full, or if Leon brings all his cars on his lot over there, I mean, I don't see it having that many people attending it at one time. But yet, we do want to make sure that you have the proper spacing so that the next tenant, hopefully there isn't one, but planning in the future is part of our job here as well, they are taken care of as well. But if you move that building I don't know if you can, I don't know if moving it more to the center or a little bit more forward or something along those lines, if that helps or hurts you or.
So the challenge I have with moving it forward, and we tried to slide it as far forward as we could and still leave a reasonable drive entrance, is you can see kind of the Y that creates right when it comes in. The closer, if I pull that building 10 feet closer, what currently is my drive entrance to kind of funnel the traffic in, becomes kind of wide open with that front access drive. As this slides 10 feet closer with the building sliding 10 feet closer, the opening that wants to be that driveway ends up.
So what's your distance from the trees up against 111 to the building?
We're talking the front here?
Yeah. I love the ruler, by the way. That's so awesome.
So on one side, I have 150 feet. On the other side, I have about 90.
Right, so if you move that building up a little bit, it really disturbs that much of the entrance?
So the challenge with moving it 10 feet this way is this curve radius here, this access drive also shifts down 10 feet, and I can sketch it here.
You can't leave it where it is?
No, because there's a width I need for this two-way access drive.
And you won't have it?
I would, if I lost 10 feet, no, the access drive would be 10 feet narrower.
But wouldn't those trees move 10 feet?
So the trees would move, but so would the curb line.
But you still, that's not, I mean, I guess I'm not trying to do your job.
No, it's okay. It's a valid question in terms of how it looks. The problem I have is that if I slide it down 10, there isn't queuing for a car to stop here. The car is in the middle of this access line and it becomes a sea of asphalt for parking, just kind of, you know.
What about 10 this way?
10 feet this way?
Yeah.
And then I end up, if I move the building, then I still have the 5-foot setback I'm looking for there, because the parking and all of this ends up shifting.
Right, but I don't think anybody's really complaining about the Leon, you have a problem with the 5-foot setback in this corner? What?
Because the challenge is from a code standpoint, it's still considered the 5-foot setback regardless of what side it is. So it'd be reducing from a 30-foot to a 5-foot.
Right.
I guess the one piece I want to look into with the commission would be, is it, if I had to lose 2 spaces here, I could get this to 10 feet. And again, if we really push to coordinate this retaining wall and eliminate this retaining wall by some grading here, then your building's 10 to 12 feet, and then we're looking for a 10-foot sidewalk as opposed to a 5-foot sidewalk or setback.
All right. Yeah, because with that side, if you get, I mean, Panera's there, so if you put something up there.
I don't want to jump, Rob.
Jump.
But when you came to, it's applicable. When it came to subcommittee, the building was 5,700 square feet and now it's 6,453. So if we went back to like the 5,700, would that buy us 5 or so spots to be able to work with more?
So the building previously was a rectangular building that had a different parking configuration. They actually did switching and flipping it. They turned the building 90 degrees and went with the more box.
Gained more space. And I do agree with Commissioner Smirgalino and Ambrosi that we definitely have to do something with the building. It's way too.
So I do have the old plan. Again, it wasn't submitted as part of the record, but the one we previously looked at was rectangular. It was actually 7,200 square feet. That one's only 7,400 square feet.
200 square feet. Yeah, but your setbacks have changed. You were deeper back with it against the 50-foot part of it, right?
Correct. We were 5 feet from the 50-foot because of the retaining wall we needed for a rectangular building. Going with a square building allowed us to pull the whole building up 20, 30 feet and eliminate the whole rear wall and provide the buffer and 10-foot slope without a retaining wall.
Now, just because I don't know the business at all, they need a 7,400 square foot building to operate?
Yeah, that's their prototypical, and most of it, 60% of it is actually the.
It's where they keep all the materials.
Correct. Most of it, there's actually a block on the plan, about 58 by 57 foot block of the actual retail building, and most of the back L of the building in the retail.
Is where all their storage, right, where they're keeping all their parts and stuff.
Yep.
But that's their prototypical, because
that's what they want to build here, or is that what they generally build?
That's what they build almost every site they go to.
So I just saw the one that went up in Bridgeport, and it surely does not look 7,400 square feet. The one on State Street, or Fairfield Avenue, I should say.
Is that new build or is that inline?
Brand spanking new, maybe a month old. And to me, that, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't really think that's 7,400 square feet. That's the one with the Starbucks right next to it. For a reference point. I think it's State and Fairfield Avenue. Do you know where that one is, Liam? Or no?
I never saw it.
Yeah, State, I think it's State and Fairfield Avenue or something like that. It's in Bridgeport. It's brand new. It literally just opened a month or two ago. I guess for now, like, again, I reiterate the look of the building needs to change, definitely. And see if they really size, if we can just try to make some of the setback work, and then we're gonna check with Bill to see if we did change the code on, or a regulation on that, so.
I got to get a date on that.
I'm gonna check on it, so.
If the code change, that was to make it 1 acre.
Correct.
minimum size for STD, so they would, in essence, this property would have to acquire 0.03 acres to then become a compliant STD eligible.
Yeah, I just don't, if we made that change, I don't know what else we could really do if we.
I'm not sure. We have to look into that. I mean,
I don't know, I'm just saying, I just don't know what else we can do.
MDD or.
I don't know.
For the 11th time, I'll look into it right now.
All right, so we have to hold.
Rob, he's gonna look into it, so make sure you don't ask him. I'm good.
I think in all fairness to the applicant, you know, he's getting a lot of mixed signals here as far as what we want from the building aesthetically. We've asked you to change it, you've changed it, you've made it, and it ended up being square to accommodate our requirements and asks, and now we're telling you that it's too boxy. So, you know, we kind of got to get on the same page as far as what we're looking for. I do agree that having the cladding, the steel building look on top of the stone, that should be something masonry or something else. You know, I don't particularly have an issue with the style of it. It's an auto parts store, you know. But if there could be some type of other cladding or a cost-effective way of making it look more appealing and possibly colonial, that would be great. And, you know, as far as, you know, the MDD was put into effect here to allow us to welcome new projects into town, just like this one, projects that we missed out on from before. So having said that, I think that we need to, you know, keep that in mind. And if I don't want to be getting hung up over this 3/10 or whatever of an acre, very, very close to it. Is fixing that, is that possible, acquiring that percentage of an acre?
That I don't know. Again, they'd have to be, you know, conversation.
It sounds like a very small.
And that, it would be, you know, from being an MDD, you know, it wouldn't be applicable with the SDD, but it would still be in the MDD zone, so it would essentially not, it'd be one of the parcels that be an existing non-conforming.
Correct. Got it.
Good.
So getting on to some of the technicals here, I'm a little bit confused on the square footage here. The original presentation indicated 6,000 and something square feet. On our agenda, it talks about almost 7,500 square feet. Maybe this is just a typo from the original.
7453.
Yeah, 7453 is what we have up here.
That's the proposed square footage.
It is, okay, okay. In your presentation, it was 6,500 or 6,400 earlier. But that's good that we have that. And now you spoke about the unloading of the vehicle that's backing in as being temporary. What's permanent? You're saying temporary just as in they're not going to be there all day, or?
Yeah, temporary, and they're there to unload their vehicle and then get out. There's not a loading space for a WB-50 to park there.
Right.
All day.
It's configured.
The only thing they have is the trucks that service and take materials out that would be your standard pickup truck. And they have, you know, on-site vehicles.
And these trucks are running all day, so they're hitting different stores at different times. I totally get that. They're going to be at certain stores during peak and off peak. How long does it typically take to unload a delivery of a store of this size?
I don't have the answer now, but I can find out.
That'd be interesting, just because it is kind of blocking off a large percentage of the parking. The signage, what were we thinking about with signage?
So the signage is part of the SDD, and we had requested for or, you know, different from other SDDs or from the underlying zone, is to look for 3 building signs. Again, the one in the front of the store and 2 on the sides.
What about on the road, though?
On the road, there is 1
Monument?
ground monument sign at the entrance.
Okay. Because line of sight is a concern over there, you know, with the nature of that road and how people drive on it. And also, as far as, you know, we did get some input from conservation. We're, you know, at this point, not as a commission requiring that you use native plantings. We suggest it. If you choose to do so, that's great. It's not going to affect the outcome of the favorable or unfavorable decision that we make. So I just want you to be aware of that. That's all I have.
No, sorry. The O'Reilly in Bridgeport's on Mountain Grove Street. 115 Mountain.
Which is near State Street.
Which is in between State and Fairfield Avenue.
Okay, Commissioner Monroe?
Okay, so
Officially, you're.
back in August, we had mentioned we wanted to have the fire department and PD, if they had any feedback about safety with the additional into main Route 111. Have we had any feedback from them at all?
I don't know if
No?
this application has been shared with them.
Okay. And I know you're also going to do you have a DOT study done? Has that been conducted yet?
There's a traffic study that's been completed. That was part of the application to talk about trip coverage and keeping the level of service on the road.
I didn't have any questions different than what was already addressed.
Okay, well, it sounds like you have your work cut out for you. So we'll leave this open. And we have to open second application, SCP 2023-10, file 1658A, also 215 Monroe Turnpike. This is the SCP. Do we have separate notice for that?
Notification of public hearing. Notice of public hearing, property address 215 Monroe Turnpike, proposed project O'Reilly Auto Parts Store, SCP-2023-10, file number 1658A, 215 Monroe Turnpike. Special exception permit application for proposed development of 7,453 square foot O'Reilly Auto Parts Store and associated site development. Date of public hearing, November 16th, 2023 at 7 PM via in-person and electronically via Zoom meeting. Application number SCP 2023-10, file number 1658A. Location of meeting 7 Fan Hill Road, Monroe, Connecticut, Town Hall Council Chambers and Zoom.
Okay, thank you. So that will be left open as well. Okay.
Would you like to continue that to the December 7th meeting?
Yes, both. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then next on the agenda for public hearings is RAA 2023-11, file 1034E, 1271 Monroe Turnpike. And we have nothing. We have notice for that as well.
I got an extra one. Getting the notice now.
I can start with them.
Smack free zone. Like a little red arrow, like a little green flag. Thank you. All right. Over than before.
I don't see a public notice listed with the.
Is it on Ryan's? Is it in Ryan's file?
The file that I have.
Was a public notice, so as far as you know.
We have to announce that?
You don't have to read it, no.
I'm assuming with them being here or something.
It was noticed.
Okay, thank you, then we'll move on.
Can you give this to the chair, please, for the letter?
So, for the applicant,
Good evening. For the record, Jason Edwards, J. Edwards Associates, Engineers Surveyors, 27 Stepney Road, Easton. I'm here on behalf of the owner and applicant, which is on 1271 Monroe Turnpike. Bridge Builders LLC now, it changed hands. This project, I'll start with the regulation change itself. This is a request for a modification to the age-restricted residential zone, ARR, with some standards of that zone. It's a minimum of 10 acres. It requires that residents must be 55 or older, must front on a major roadway, they're defined in the POCD, must have public water, they must be condominium type ownership, meaning they can stand in detached, but they have to be common ownership and then detached or attached units are permitted. There's not many of these in town. There's I believe only 5 that are approved zones are. You've got older ones which are hitting Knowles, off of Cross Hill. There's the Monroe Housing Authority. I don't know the name of that development. That's the owner. Over on, I honestly don't know what road that's on. There's High Meadow Condos, which was built in the 80s and 90s. It's a large development next door to this project. And then Cutler's Crossing, which was on the corner of Cutler's Farm, on the corner of Cutler's Farm and Hill. That's almost like completed construction, was approved 3 years ago. It's just about built out. This is just the, per the POCD, the roads that would be permitted to have an ARR zone. You'd have to have frontage on one of the purple, green, or red roads. I did a relatively basic assessment of what available parcels there are, that could actually satisfy all these requirements. There's not many. There's a few on Monroe Turnpike. There's 1 or 2 possibly on Cutler's Farm, and maybe 1 or 2 on Route 25. They're all just around 10 to 15 acres. Many of them have a lot of challenges as far as wetlands and other conditions. So there's not a lot of available land left for these zoned, age-restricted zones. The request that we're making, there's 2 requests. I'll go to the first one first. We'd like to request that the separation distance between principal buildings for detached units be reduced from 35 feet that it currently is now to 25 feet. So that would only apply to the detached units. The attached units would still remain at 35. That's spelled out differently in the regulations. I could give you all a copy of the full ARR regulation, and I just as I said, the separation will remain for the attached units. In my opinion, it seems like the original writing of that regulation intended to have different separation distances for the different building types. It was spelled out specifically per building. And 35 feet is the size building that you're typically going to build on this site is between probably 30 and 40 feet wide. So you've got a full building in between a detached unit. It's a rather wide space. The reduction in spacing would allow the detached developments to have less impact for the number of units. You'd be able to build them on a smaller area, shorter road, less impervious area. It'd be a little bit more cost effective. The controls for the number of units on these properties, the decrease of the spacing doesn't necessarily mean more units because you're regulated by the fact that Monroe has no sewers. So you've got your sewage treatment, the state health code only allows you to go up to 7,500 gallons per day, which limits at 50 bedrooms, unless you go to a DEP system, but you really have to get up in hundreds to make that viable. There's really not, in my opinion, any parcels left that could achieve that. So you're restricted still, you're decreasing the spacing, but really the density is not
going higher. For one another reason too, if we went with attached units, we can still have that same number of units. We could, we could just put the buildings together and the density would be there anyway. So keeping them separate just provides for detached units rather than attached units. Also regulating the build out of anything more significant from this zone is there's a maximum allowed number of ARR units relative to the number of single family homes in R1, R2, and R3. You're allowed a 6% max in the town. And based on the last data I got from the assessor, we are currently have 27 units available. And that does not include this development. So after this is constructed, there'd be only 2 left that could be built in town. Oh, if it was built out of 25, it's currently approved for 19 units. That was approved for 1271 last year. Yeah, again, if the developer wanted to do more units, they could simply do attached units and would be still viable to have greater density. Another benefit of the detached units is that they're generally going to be taxed at probably a higher rate. It's going to be a single family home, probably a little bit more valuable, would be more revenue to the town. All of the infrastructure for the ARR project is private, maintained by the community itself. There's no public roadways. The sewers is all kept on site and septic systems. Snow plowing is all done by the community itself. The zone also prohibits school-age children from living on the property. So there would be no new school impacts, students that would impact the school budgets or the system. And the building and fire codes allow for buildings to be as close as 5 feet together without sprinklers, which seems crazy to me, but that's what they allow. So we're, have no issues with that. And this is just a section of the building code that refers to that. You can see on the right the highlighted distances for the various wall types and projections. This is just some other municipalities that have similar developments that permit what we're talking about basically. So this is Toll Brothers, the Enclave, I'm not sure how you say that, up on Mount Pleasant Road in Newtown. They have a building spacing of 25 per building. So you can see what that looks like. And this is in Trumbull on Daniels Farm Road. And they actually go down to 20. They permit, some of them are more, some are less. They allow us once it's 20. And these are actually larger houses than what would be built on 1271. The second element to the request of the zone change or zone text change is currently the age-restricted detached dwellings are permitted to have 3 bedrooms, and we're proposing to reduce that to 2, eliminate the 3 bedrooms. So that will also result in likely smaller units. And I believe that's something we brought before the subcommittee about 2 months ago, and this was something they wanted, or you guys wanted. Benefits of that, again, it was suggested by the commission. It limits the number of residents in each unit, so you wouldn't have the overcrowding on a single unit. Reduces your required septic capacity, and it does result in likely smaller units. In regards to the POCD, this is the 2021 POCD, which the regulation actually refers to the 2010 POCD, but I figured it should refer to this. It speaks in item 5 down here. It says, in developing the affordable housing plan, the Planning and Zoning Commission should review the age-restricted residential, multifamily, residential, and housing opportunity district regulations to determine if any aspect of the regulations are excessively stringent to ensure that the development of housing via these districts is reasonably feasible. And I just break down here how we are in conformance with that. The requested changes will create opportunities for more affordable options. If you have, like I said earlier, if you're able to reduce the overall footprint of the development, you can build more with less infrastructure. And there, the 2-bedroom units are likely to be smaller, therefore probably a little bit less expensive. It would also there's very little inventory of existing single-family homes now in Monroe. Making a viable option or creating more age-restricted options for seniors to move to would free up some of that inventory for maybe younger families to come in or create more affordable options for existing homes by increasing the inventory. It does also provide, alternative housing options beyond the traditional single-family homes. And just in general, the increase in housing costs has more of an impact on seniors than it probably does on some other sectors of the population. And I'm going to just go into how this change will impact this project. This is not, we're going to be coming back before you if the text amendment is approved, so it's not a special exception application now, but I wanted to give you an idea of what we have done to date and what plan A is moving forward if things go are approved. This was the development plan that was approved by Wetlands in 2021 and also was submitted with the zone change application, the planning and zoning to create the ARR zone here. You'll see that at that time, we had 27 units proposed. It was a mixture of detached units in the rear and then 5 6-unit buildings, I believe. There was a mixture of 2 and some 1-bedroom units in this. We then, the developer became involved at that point, and this is what just a very rough rendering of that project in the rear would look like. Larger buildings, obviously, and then, stack of small in the rear. This is the current approved plan. This was brought before you in 2022 and was approved. It was sold to a builder, and they are currently starting construction. They've got all their permits. I believe all the bonds are in place. They're clearing it as, probably not now, but today they were out there clearing it. So this first phase is going to be built as approved now, regardless of the change in if this text amendment's changed or not. So really, the text amendment would only pertain to the area in the back, which we've got, 15 units back here now. That would be slightly larger homes, all 3-bedroom. These would be 3-bedroom back here, and that was the reason for the reduction in units. The developer at the time wanted 3-bedroom homes, so that meant less homes. This is a graphic of what that might look like. Obviously, the houses are all just random generic colors, but gives you a sense of what the layout looks like. This is a concept of what it might look like if the text amendment is changed. We would, revise this turnaround area maybe up here. We aren't even, this is really maxing out the possibility here. We don't know for sure we could even get 25 units on here, and we'll come back with that if we're approved to change the text. But, I wanted to show you kind of the most that we would put there. It may be less. And this is a rendering of that. These buildings are a little bit smaller, but you'll notice they're a little closer to what color call that. This is just a side-by-side of the two. The main difference, obviously, is the spacing, and the circle would be moved over to this side. The disturbance living in the rear really is the same as it was in the 27 unit layout, that the rear buildings are about where these buildings would be conceptually. Yeah, so that really is the end of my presentation. I guess if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, well, let's start with the public. I have a letter from a member of the public, Brian Quinn, who cannot be here tonight, but would like to have his opposition to this text amendment read into the record. He is opposed to any text amendment that changes the standards set in our current regulations, especially when the sole beneficiary is to a new development. The neighborhood home values will be adversely affected by this proposed change, and increased pressure will be placed on the already taxed aquifer. The property at 1271 Monroe Turnpike has adequate room to build homes in accordance with current regulations and will be able to maintain the bucolic landscape we currently enjoy. I implore you to deny this amendment. Regards, Brian Quinn. This is Brian Quinn of 194 Josie's Ring Road in Monroe, who has lived in Monroe since 2010 and has served on this commission for a period of 4 years some time ago. Are there any other members of the public here tonight that would like to comment on this application? Either in person or online, please raise your hands now. Any members of the audience like to comment on this application, please raise your hands. Seeing none, we'll go ahead to the commissioners, starting on my right. Commissioner Smirglano.
Any questions?
Okay.
Right now, we don't have a plan right now.
Sorry,
We don't have a planner in the town.
Planner, yes.
Okay, and this is something that I think that the commission should be handling or taking care of or looking into this about changes, because you're taking from, you say that, okay, you're cutting it down from 35 feet to 25 feet, but that means that you can put more buildings on it. I mean, without a doubt, no doubt about it. I mean, and so you want to cut the bedrooms down, but that doesn't make a difference on that. And you're saying about the septic capacity, what if you put all individual septic systems in, you have to meet a different requirement?
You have individual septic systems.
You have individuals,
Yes, they're all.
so they would be in those, so the density could increase.
We could still, without this check change, we can go to 27 units, which is more density than what we would do as detached. So that's what was approved as part of the.
Like I said before, that this is something that really should be handled in subcommittee.
I did bring it before the subcommittee.
No, I understand that, but we don't have a plan. I told you that we had to discuss this and we had to take care of this. Even in the subcommittee, I told you the same thing, that I don't want to change regulations to accommodate for one piece. It doesn't work that way. It works that, like Mr. Quinn just said on the thing, that if we're going to change something, we change it for everybody, not just one parcel. I don't want to start doing that anymore. And too much of that's going on here, that we're changing it for one parcel, and then we have to change it for all the parcels. And so that's where I'm at with it right now. I don't know about where the other commissioners are.
Commissioner Mayne.
How many other parcels in town does this affect, this change?
Did you say there were none left, or there'll only be 3?
That's just based on my big assessment. There's not many left that could be zoned, but they would all have to be brought before you to have the zone changed to ARR.
As far as the numbers go, though, of units.
Oh, yes, it's restricted to only 6% of the towns. There's a ratio. Yeah.
Can you go back to that for a minute? So
This ratio is broken down here. So 6% of the total number of homes within R1, R2, and R3 can be ARR homes. So right now, you're at 297 that exist. You've also got 19 that were approved as part of this 1271 application. If it was to go to the max that you could do is 27 basically. So there's only 8 more in town right now that could be built.
After you build yours.
After ours gets built out.
So if we were to change this to this regulation, there's only 8 more that could go into this town?
8 more units throughout the whole town that could be built.
Yes.
Under the the ARR.
That's correct, yes. So
Zoning.
the zone is maxed out, and unless that percentage number changes or there's a drastic
change that.
number of single-family homes built that's going to affect it, then, or there's for some reason a community that goes away, I guess, but I don't see that happening. So you're limited by a multitude of factors. There's also a maximum density per acre. You can't have more than 5 detached per acre. I think it's 5 attached and 2 detached per acre, I believe. So there's a variety of different restrictions that prevent it from being a major development of this type of unit without.
So you'd basically be the last of the.
Unless something else changes.
We change the regulation again, allow a larger percentage.
They still have to come before you to change the zone before they could even present the application to you. So you have a lot of control over how things are built out. And in response to your question on the number of units that are left, I did have a map that showed our number of zones in town that it would affect. This is pretty much the only one because the other ones are already all built, and they're maxed out. So, and there's no more that can be built. So you've got only 4 of them in town, plus this one that's under construction. So you've got High Meadow, which is right next door. That's the only large one. Monroe Housing Authority has something, I can't remember the name of it, but I've seen it. I know it's over there. Hidden Knolls has 2 small.
Fair Acres.
Fairway Acres.
Fairway Acres.
And then Hidden Knolls has 2 sister communities right here that are both relatively small. And then College Crossing, which they're just finishing construction on now. So beyond that, there's nothing else zoned ARR in town. And there's very few parcels that meet all the necessary criteria as well. The 10 acres, the frontage on the certain roads that are permitted. These are the only roads you can front on in town and be ARR. You also have to have public water. So, a lot of these sections of these roads don't have public water, so that is a challenge for economically to really, build anything of some scale.
Interesting. Okay, I'm good.
I don't have any questions.
No questions.
Any closing statements?
I just want to make it, clear that we're not asking for really an increase in density on this. The density, we can already go with more units. All we're asking is to fit more of the units that the owner wants to build, I guess you could say. He doesn't want to push them all together into one big box. He wants to have them separated and have people have, their own space.
So your approval as it stands has multifamily?
It doesn't, but we can come back in and modify that under the current, zoning regulations, not changing anything. But the plan that we had originally brought before you.
Had multifamily.
Yeah, and that's permitted in the zone. Yeah, attached unit, all of it, call it. So I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm not saying it is, but it is an option.
If you have it as units altogether, you have to meet a different septic requirement too.
Oh, but we just would have to, we'd have to have.
You'd have to have a certain amount of volume.
Yeah, to have a larger septic system, larger.
Right.
You already
You're
figured that
gonna
all out. Yeah.
change a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't change one thing, it changes.
No, you're right. It's a different plan. Yeah, we'd have to come back before you, so.
Okay.
Fine, I'm just saying that it's a.
Well, hold on a second. Leon, septic wise, his way seems better. If they would all be individual instead of.
And I understand that, I have that. What I'm saying is, we don't know how many other places are like this. He's saying that there's not anymore, and we're almost at the end. We don't know any of that right now. And so, without me knowing all of this,
we have
we have to verify what he's saying. We don't have any of that input here. I mean, none of that's here. So we would have to look into that and find out.
Understood.
So do you want to leave the hearing open?
I would like to find out
For more information
before, I would suggest that you keep it open too. I don't know.
What are we hearing from the other commissioners? And you want to keep the hearing open for more information, or do you want to close it?
Personally, myself, I'm good. I'd close it.
You're good? You go.
I would close it if it was my decision.
Close it? Close it, okay. And you want to close it?
Yeah, they will close at 10.
All right, we'll close the hearing then.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks, good.
Jet lag. Okay, so we have the final hearing of the night. Is EFP Excavation and Fill 2023-0464 Cambridge Drive and 4 Independence Drive.
I will let the commissioners know that in your supplemental packet, I was asked to provide you with the excavation and fill permit approval from the previous approval, as well as to provide you with the meeting minutes from the ZBA for the variances. So those are the next 2 items in your supplemental packet that was left on your table tonight.
All right,
If you're ready.
we have a notice.
We do. Notice of public hearing Property address 64 Cambridge Drive and 4 Independence Drive. Proposed project excavation and filling permit application for 64 Cambridge Drive and 4 Independence Drive. Assessors map 94, lot 15/00 and 15/28. Astro Land Holdings LLC and Spacely Land Holdings LLC owners. Solely Engineering LLC representative. Date of public hearing, November 16th, 2023 at 7 p.m. via in-person and electronically via Zoom meeting. Application number EFP-2023-04, file number 114. Location of meeting, 7 Fan Hill Road, Monroe, Connecticut, Town Hall Council Chambers and Zoom.
Thank you. I'd just like to address the applicant, that you're aware that there is an appeal of the ZBA finding, and that if the appeal is upheld, then any decision we make tonight or during our deliberations will be voided. So you're operating at this point at your own risk.
We understand that, yes. We're confident in our application and ZBA. Believe that isn't even, they haven't even set any kind of dates until March where that'll even be heard. So there's quite some time before that'll get resolved through the court system, but I can assure you the commission is certainly well within their rights to act and consider this application. That's before you.
Another point of business, we have a request from Mr. Metropolis for intravenous status, I believe.
Yes.
Which we will grant tonight.
Well, I think the commission, in accordance with state statutes, can accept the petition. However, as part of the proceedings of the public hearing, the commission has the ability to determine whether or not the petition has met its burden of proof and demonstrated a reasonable likelihood of unreasonable pollution to the environment. And I think I'll touch on that as part of my presentation and review of the history of the site, but I just want the commission to understand that you can accept the petition. However, you have to determine that they've met the burden to be granted into your status, which is something that the commission gets to do through hearing the items discussed at the hearing and what's being presented into the record.
And I'd also like to be clear on that as well before decisions made about the intervention.
Our council has recommended that we accept the
Then you certainly accept, you can certainly
intervenor status.
Well, I think what we'd probably recommend is, you certainly can accept the petition. However, the commission has the ability to determine whether or not they met the burden or granted intervenor status, because other commissions, including this one, didn't grant that on previous applications because they didn't meet their burden of proof. So, but we can talk about that as the hearing progresses, because we're certainly excited to hear what they actually have to present, because we'll talk about that as we go through the process.
And I would like to put something on the record at an appropriate time.
Okay. All right, so we read the hearing, the notices. We've got some of that business taken care of. Do you want to, for the applicant we have?
Sure. Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Kevin Soley. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Soley Engineering. Office is located right here in Monroe at 501 Main Street. Just for record keeper, from housekeeping items, I do have the proof of notice, the green cards on the submit into the record. So we're here tonight to discuss an excavation and fill permit application for 64 Cambridge Drive and 4 Independence Drive. And just to orient everybody, so the site is located in a portion of what's called the Pepper Street Business Park. So this area shows the town of Monroe, Route 25 runs north-south along western side of town. The two properties subject to this application are accessed via Cambridge Drive through Pepper Street, the north end of Pepper Street intersects 25 right about here. Just if I can zoom in a little bit, you can see the town line of Monroe Newtown. Route 25 runs here. Pepper Street intersection 25, and then Cambridge Drive accesses off of that, leading to the Pepper Street Business Park. And the site, this application covers 64 Cambridge Drive and Independence Drive. The site has been a lot of discussion over the last several years. I want to touch a little bit on the project history, just to kind of remind the commission about some of the history that's gone down with this property and the approval history that's taken place. In May of 2019, so going back to 2006, there were a number of approvals that were done. A previous owner did a number of activities on the site which were not consistent with the previous approvals granted. The current owner and applicant acquired the property in May of 2019. Immediately started meeting with the town to talk about a future path forward for the property, started meeting with the subcommittee about some potential modifications to the regs. And then in November of 2019, the Inland Wetlands Commission issued a violation regarding the property. We met with the Wetlands Commission. We responded to that violation in February of 2020, and we started to prepare applications to submit to both Wetlands and Planning and Zoning to specifically address that violation that was issued for work that was conducted by a previous owner prior to the current owner taking title to the property. So in May of 2020, we submitted an application to the Inland Wetlands Commission. This went through a very lengthy process, and ultimately it was denied in January of 2021. And the reason for those denials, there were a number of components, but the biggest overarching theme was that at the time of application, there was a considerable amount of fill to be imported to the property. The commission felt that what was being proposed was too much. So we met with them and made modifications to our application. In June of 2020, we also submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission. However, we withdrew that application once the wetlands application was ultimately denied. So after that denial, we went back to the drawing board. We met with the Wetlands Commission. In March of 2021, we submitted a new application to the Wetlands Commission. That went through a process, and approval was granted in September of 2021. And the Wetlands Commission at that time determined that the application would not result in any adverse impacts to the wetlands or the resources on the property. And I don't believe they found that the intervener at the time had met his burden of showing a reasonable likelihood of unreasonable pollution to the environment. In October of 2021, an application was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which was consistent with the approval that was granted to the Wetlands Commission. That approval was granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission in January of 2022 after extensive public hearing and discussion on the property and the project. There were a number of conditions required as part of that permit, which have been adhered to and completed by the applicant over that time. And the opposition to the project, who happens to be in a abutter, and he filed an intervention petition to this application, he appealed both wetlands approval and planning and zoning approvals that were issued for the property. The wetlands approval was upheld by the courts. The judge determined that the wetland approval was valid. There was no adverse impact to the natural resources on the property. And that wetland permit is still active and good. The planning and zoning approval was overturned by the courts, but it was overturned by the courts due to a technicality and a deficiency in the zoning regulations for the town of Monroe. We've come to this commission and discussed it, but essentially the courts have determined that state statutes only empower zoning board of appeals to waive any requirements in zoning regulations. The Monroe zoning regulations have a provision in the excavation and fill permit regulation which empower the commission to waive certain components. However, the courts have said that provision is not supported by statutes. Therefore, approvals granted by this commission or any commission that grant waivers from a planning and zoning standpoint aren't valid if they're tested in the courts. So the only reason that approval was overturned was because of that technicality. I want to make that clear that that's why that approval was overturned, because the technicality associated with the waiver provisions. And they said that this commission couldn't grant waivers, so we had to go back and do something different. So in June, we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We requested variances from the zoning regulations for the specific elements that this commission had waived, and I'll go through those in a minute. And that approval was granted in July of 2020. So we have essentially perfected the issue that was raised as part of the overturning of the previously issued planning and zoning approval for this property, for this project. And that brings us here today. So we have filed essentially the same information that was previously approved by this commission as part of this new excavation and fill permit application. Now, I'll say that up on the screen is a picture of this, of the property. This was taken, I believe, in August. I'm sure this commission has vivid memories of a lot of the discussion in previous public hearings that were presented on this property. And I will say that as part of our application, we did request that the record for the previous approval be included as part of the record for this application. So all of the documentation, reports, presentations, analysis, that's all included as part of the record for this proceeding before this commission as well. So I just wanted to let the commission know all of the previous discussions and reports and documentation is part of the record of this application. So we're here tonight to review an excavation and fill permit regulation, which is the same content, the same material that was previously approved by this commission. Again, the only difference is we perfected the deficiency that the courts found regarding the waivers that were granted by this commission. So now this commission can act on this application. You don't have to rely on any waiver provisions or granting any waivers because we've provided those ZBA variances prior to this submission of this application. So just to refresh, and we can certainly go through this in detail. However, this is the previous record as part of this application, so I won't belabor the point too much. But what we previously proposed and discussed was 64 Cambridge and 4 Independence Drive. It was over excavated beyond what was previously approved by the previous property. Our application was to come in and to restore the watershed for the wetland system to the east side of the site in this location here, which included importing material, grading the material that's on the property, to create flat level pads that will allow for positive drainage on the property and to raise the grade of the northern portion of the property closest to Independence Drive to allow for stormwater to fall on the property and then drain over to this wetland system. There's a swale along the top of this rock excavation, which allows for this wetland corridor and system to be fed hydraulically, consistent with the previous condition prior to any site disturbance, and then to grade the lower portion of the site, 64 Cambridge Drive, to grade towards the resources that exist on the southern and western side of the property. So we had previously provided extensive plans which demonstrated our the quantities of materials that needed to be done. We had sequencing for what the stages of the project was going to be, and that was all discussed in great detail and at great length. Regarding the waivers that were previously granted and the variances that we've secured, there were 4 components that we've secured from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Per section, and these 4 are listed on the screen here. I'm going to go through one each individually. Per section 6.4.9C, no change in contour shall be made within 25 feet of any property line. We have received a variance for this provision from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and this essentially is grading that's along the shared interior property line between 64 Cambridge Drive to the south, 4 Independence to the north, and some grading that was being proposed along some of the properties really to clean up the previous activity. For section 6.4.9B, no artificial slope greater than 14 degrees to the horizontal or maximum 4 feet horizontal to 1 foot vertical shall be created within 50 feet of any property line. We received a variance for this. Again, this is consistent with trying to clean up the property, create, clean up the property around the perimeter of the site and to allow for the grading to take place within the shared property line. For section 6.4.9E, no artificial slope greater than 14 degrees to the horizontal shall be created within 50 feet of any street line. Again, we're really cleaning up some of the grading that was done along Independence Drive. And then per section 6.4.9P, all permitted such activities, regardless of permitted location, shall not include permit or involve materials from all site locations. We've secured this variance as well. Again, in order to grade the site and to provide the positive drainage needed, we do need to import material in order to achieve those grades, which is why we requested the variance, and this commission has previously waived that requirement. Now, the site itself, again, is a far, far improvement than the condition was when at the time our client acquired the property. Again, this is a recent picture. This is actually looking north towards Independence Drive. So this is probably maybe a third of the way into the property from Cambridge Drive. You can see that the lowest portion of the site, which was closest to Independence, has been raised in grade. Since the approvals were granted, the activity on the site has been primarily moving the material that was already there. So all the native material, the quarry screenings that were on the property, those have all been placed and processed in compacted lifts. And then some of the other piles that were present on the property had been gone through, sorted, and placed and compacted in accordance with the conditions of approval that were granted as part of the previous application. This commission may recall, as part of both the wetlands approval and the planning and zoning approval, there were requirements that the applicant engage a third-party inspector to serve and to operate on behalf of the town to do inspections of the property, to be there pretty consistently while the work was being completed to make sure there wasn't any unsuitable material found on the property. This commission may recall in May of this year, Mr. Heupel from NSAFE came and presented to the commission and went through an exhaustive presentation showing all of his activity on the site, everything he observed, and he essentially determined and concluded that all the activity had been done in accordance with the permits, in accordance with the conditions of approval, and that there was nothing on the property that had any cause for concern from an environmental standpoint or anything else. I do have for the commission a copy of his final report, which I'll just submit for the record because that wasn't part of the previous record because it took place after the approval, but I will provide this.
Thank you, Kevin.
And so to that end, we received very minimal comments as part of this application. We received a letter from the town engineer simply looking for a status update on kind of what has taken place thus far. As part of that response, we did provide a letter and a plan which essentially shows this is the topography on the site, I believe, through March of this year. And no activity has really taken place, no import or legally taken place on the property since the planning and zoning approval was overturned by the courts due to that technicality. But essentially they've been, the activity that did take place prior to that was essentially cleaning up a lot of the material that was on the site, processing some of the material that was on the site, placing it in compacted lifts, and resulting in the condition that it is today. And that northern portion of the site has been brought up to elevation approximately 420 to 424. So it shows a considerable amount of fill being placed in that lowest area. There was another comment from the health department, which was simply that they had no comments regarding this application. However, future applications, we obviously have to demonstrate that we can provide septic in accordance with the health code and the health department requirements. There are large areas, both on 4 Independence Drive and 64 Cambridge Drive, which have been left undisturbed and have more than suitable septic systems to accommodate future development on this property in accordance with the health department. And I believe it, so that we have adequate separation from groundwater, ledge, to accommodate future septic systems in the future. I'd be happy to go through all of the design drawings that were provided as part of this resubmission of the same material. However, as the commissioner remembers, it included overall site plans, individual site plans broken out from a scale standpoint to ensure that there's adequate and clarity in terms of what's supposed to take place. We have an overall site layout plan, and then broken into sections. We have an overall grading and drainage plan, and then broken into sections. We have overall soil erosion sediment control plan. And again, we've broken that into multiple phases for the commission's consideration. All of this went through a very detailed and comprehensive review as part of the previous application. All this material stays the same. It's the same application. We have an overall landscape plan with a number of enlargement areas specific to where some additional wetland plantings were placed, buffer plantings, clean up and to just really provide the restoration that the site needed after the previous owner excavated the way that they did. We also provided cross sections in accordance with the zoning requirements, which show the existing, the existing grade, the former grade, the proposed grade. All of those elements have been clearly shown on the plans in accordance with the zoning regulations. So, again, for the commission's, benefit, obviously, is you certainly accept the intervenor petition, but this commission gets to determine whether or not they meet their burden of proof that the site that the project has a reasonable likelihood of causing unreasonable pollution to the environment. Now, again, just to remind the commission, the Wetlands Commission, that is their charge to determine if an application has an adverse impact. They approve this project. That approval will appeal to the courts, and the judge upheld the approval. The judge agreed that approval was valid and it was granted in accordance with the regulations, in accordance with state regulations, and that they did not demonstrate that they had met their burden, that the project would have an unreasonable harm on the environment. But again, so we're here this evening again to essentially propose the same permit that was previously granted. However, we cured technical defects that were identified through the court proceeding. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have or get into the materials in more detail. But we're certainly here to answer any questions that you have or listen to the public or the interview.
You did respond to our engineer's request, and you state that you've completed 4 out of the 6 phase of the original application. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right. So can you let us?
We're in phase 4, so we've completed.
In phase 4. So we would, in essence, be approving phase 4. So it's 5 and 6.
Well, I mean, in essence, you're approving the full.
It's already been done. So
correct.
Can you let us, where did you leave off and what do you still have to do?
So this is the current condition of the property. So the lowest portions of the site, furthest north, that was over excavated the most, that has been brought back to a grade above groundwater and is essentially in the condition that's shown in this picture of a relatively level site. There hasn't been much import of material, but that would be the future phases and activity that would take place. That's why, phases 1 through 3 were really the cleaning up of the existing piles that were there, the sorting through some of the other material that had been brought to the site, ensuring that there was nothing unsuitable in those piles. That's been determined and reviewed and overseen by the town's third-party peer reviewer. And essentially, at this point, the site's in a condition where additional import could take place. However, we would need this permit issued so that activity could continue.
So how much more do you need to import? You need a little more, I think, details.
Sure, I believe it's approximately about 400,000 yards of material still need to be imported.
Indeed. There's nothing on the site anymore?
Well, there are some piles on the site.
So you got to import 400,000, including you have on site?
Right. Yes, we have quite a bit of grade to continue to raise. And again, that was the fill permit was authorizing us to import that, source that material, import it, place it in accordance with the approved plans. The activity that took place subsequent to the approval was those first 3 phases of cleaning up what's there, placing that material, and then once the planning and zoning approval was overturned, the property owner couldn't continue to operate due to that those technicalities. So that activity is ceased. So reissuing this permit will allow us to continue that work, to continue to raise the site in accordance with the wetlands.
All right, well, we'll take questions from the commissioners. We could start with Commissioner Mayini. Wow, since he already started.
Oh, because I'm rude.
The material coming in, again, we're going to go off of what you originally have discussed. It's all going to be
clean fill and we were gonna strike some of the stuff that we discussed in it that wasn't gonna go in and.
That's correct.
That's all staying the same.
That's all the same. Yes, there was a material acceptance protocol, which was submitted as part of this application and the previous application. It was very specific what material would be allowed to be brought to the site. It had parameters established for testing of that material, inspections of that material, manifests that are required as part of that material.
So that whole process is gonna stay the same?
All that stays the same, correct.
Is there any material within the town of Monroe that might be coming over here?
Certainly, there are some projects that are either before this commission, we're having a groundbreaking for one tomorrow, actually, that have some export of some material. However, we can't import anything to the site yet, but there are projects in town that will have an export need.
So basically, everything that we had approved previously, you're trying to keep the same exact protocol. We're not changing anything. There's no curveball we're looking for.
Everything is exactly the same.
We're throwing straight fastballs right now.
That's it.
Okay, I'm good.
I might just add, Mr. Commissioner, that this genesis comes from the notice of violation issued by the Inland Wetlands Commission. So we went there first, got an approved plan. In order to implement that remediation plan as ordered by the IWC, we had to come to you to get an excavation and fill permit for that exact same project. And so we couldn't change anything without having to go back to Inland Wetlands. As Kevin's.
But you have no interest in changing anything.
Correct.
We want to continue.
Right, you just want to keep moving forward like you've been.
Right.
Exactly.
You should impose the same conditions, the monitoring, the reports, the material acceptance procedure.
Right, but that's all what we already approved, and that's all what we want to keep the same path.
Right, you should incorporate those same conditions to this.
That's why I asked if you were looking to do anything different.
All the same.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have a copy of the previously approved.
I just want to make sure they want to keep everything.
Okay, Commissioner Westland.
So I guess just one of the major changes here and that we can see as we've had time on our side. So, you know, based on the information, materials that have been given us by NSAFE here, it looks as though the wetlands area has undergone a pretty good mediation and restoration from that period of time is what we were actually hoping for. And
yes.
Because we've had this period of time where a time of inactivity, we really weren't able to measure this before. But from looking at this information, it looks like you guys have done a great job as far as your efforts in doing it the right way. It's definitely yielded a great result. So that's been good. Is there any possible development plans in the works right now? I mean, as far as a tenant or an idea of what the future use will be for this property?
Well, so the property is being marketed for future industrial uses. What we found is that while the industrial market and sector is actually very hot right now, it's a very good market to be in. A lot of the tenants are looking for projects that are already approved. So while we continue to perfect the requirements that are established in the approvals from wetlands and planning and zoning, there very well may be an application in the near future for site development, but that's a future issue to be dealt with the future application. At this point, we just want to restore the previous approval that was granted by planning and zoning.
What is the current grade right now of that low section that we're looking at? That is the low section, correct?
That's correct. As of March of 2023, the elevation in that area were between 420 and 424.
And where does it need to be developable?
Well, to raise that grade up to Independence, it's about 460, 465. So we still have quite a bit of.
That's where the 400,000 hertz comes from.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have any idea how long that would take? I know it's based on projects and availability of fill and everything else, but any type of a scope of time for filling?
Well, again, in accordance with our application, this commission will approve a 2-year permit.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to come back before this commission to renew that after that 2 years has gone. And then, you know, we're hopeful that it can be completed in that time.
Sounds good. Thanks. Well, it's not saying it's going to be done, but.
Commissioner Lupo is.
No questions. I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Westland said, that I'm happy with the progress so far with the reporting, and as long as there's no changes, then I have no other questions.
Commissioner McMahon.
So, and safe is still.
That's okay.
So NSAFE is still inspecting this site currently? Or
No, there's no activity at all. Yeah, since the planning and zoning approval was overturned by the courts, there hasn't been any activity on site. But while activity was taking place, they were there. And then, in accordance with, and to a considerable expense to our clients. But as material begins to be imported again, he'll presume the role that was established in the conditions of approval.
has any new evidence come to light of any kind of change or pollution to the area?
No.
I do want to correct just one legal aspect of things. So,
Kevin's wrong.
he was talking about the law, so I'm not an engineering issue, but what happened is that when the court overturned this commission's granting of the excavation and fill permit because of the waivers, and only because of the waivers, our client continued to work on the property and continued to fill. Remember, we have a resolution from the Inland Wetlands Commission saying we want you to remediate this property as quickly as possible. So continue to work. Under law, entitled to do that. The intervener, Mr. Metropolis, didn't like the fact that we were continuing to remediate environmental issues, and then went into court and asked the court to issue a TRO, a restraining order, from allowing us to continue until we came back to you, which we're doing tonight, to get the excavation and fill permit, I call it being re-blessed. You already approved it. The waivers were declared not to be invalid because case law says zoning commissions cannot grant waivers. You have to get variances from the ZBA. The court said you have to stop until you get that permit re-blessed. And so that's why we're here. But we did continue to work for a little while after it was overturned and before the court issued that TRO order.
What was the time period on that?
I'm going to guess 4 or 5 months. It was interesting. The interveners didn't move immediately after they won the planning and zoning appeal. They didn't move immediately for a TRO. They maybe thought we were going to stop. As I said, we have an Inland Wetlands Commission resolution and order requiring us to continue to remediate the property. They gave us 5 years. We're already 2 years past, maybe a little bit more. So the client decided to keep working under the guidance of the site monitor, make sure everything was fine, using the material acceptance procedure to the extent that material was being brought to the property, which I understand was very, very little. And so, yes, we've continued. I think we, as NSAFE has attested to, no problems out there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Ambrosi.
How much material did you remove when you went through those piles?
I'm not aware of the quantity. I don't believe much because there wasn't anything in that material that needed to be removed.
There wasn't anything in Stratford High School that needed to be removed.
I can't, I don't know the specifics regarding the processing of that pile. I don't know, I can't answer that.
So you don't know how much rebar was moved out of there? Does anybody have that answer?
I'll carve out back to the property owner. As we processed that pile, there was metal in it, but there was no dirt or concrete that was unsuitable. It was either crushed or tested, but I would say probably 1 30-yard, maybe 2 30-yard containers that left the site. So it was all gone through under NSAFE's, view and vision, but it was, I'll say when they demoed the demo material, anything that was metal that could be put in the earth, we shipped out of site, but that all got actually recycled.
Well, because I was understanding there was a lot of metal that was in from the Stratford High School, a lot of rebar, a lot of.
Yeah, again, I believe it was less than 3 containers that actually got shipped to Bridgeport in 30-yard containers, but all that had was, that entire pile was
handled, gone through, sort of crushed, and anything that was ferrous metal or the like was shipped off campus.
Okay, so you don't know how much, really, you have no idea?
I would be very content in saying it was less than 5 containers. It wasn't very much metal, you know.
Any other material taken off?
Anything that could be recycled was recyclable.
So there was no other material removed? No paint, nothing like that?
No.
All right, I had another question to ask you. Oh. Did you do any groundwater samplings? Testing of the groundwater? Now,
We did as part of the initial applications, that material.
has any of that been done now?
No, there hasn't been any additional testing, nor was it a condition of approval.
No, but I'm just saying, now that it's been filled, it's up to the top of that level there with all the material in there. Have we done any groundwater testing?
No, we have not.
I think that we should do some of that before we move forward. For my sake, to make sure that there's nothing in the groundwater.
Yeah, I mean, there's been nothing to suggest that anything would change the previous results.
No, I have that, but I'm just asking you, has it been tested? It would have been a good idea if you came in front of us and it's been tested so that this commission could be a little bit more, secure with it, the water's been tested. Because now it's been in there for, I don't know how you filled it. I mean, it's pretty much up there. And so the other question I have to ask you is, do you need to bring in 400,000 yards of material to make this property suitable, or is it what you wanted to get to at the point?
To achieve the grades that the Wetlands Commission required in order to restore the watershed to the wetlands.
And so there's no other way to cut that down a little bit to restore the.
Not to restore the watershed.
All right, and then, that's all I have for now. I see there's a letter here that you got that you responded to our engineer, but I don't have his comments at all.
The engineer's comments?
None of it.
The response to the letter, no.
We don't have the response to the letter, but we have no comments.
So his memo was simply one sentence, and it's actually the number 1 on our letter that we responded to. But it is in the meeting packet. It is on the website. I confirm that.
You see, I haven't even looked at that packet, to tell you the truth, because I guess, I wasn't aware that it was 1,000 pages or whatever.
Well, our materials were extensive. They went through an extensive review as part of the last.
No, but I haven't looked at any of that. And I asked Mike if he had any of it, and Mike had none of it either, and I wasn't
We
really
don't
prepared.
have hard copies at this point.
Huh?
We don't have hard copies.
We don't have any hard copies of anything. Of none of your.
It's all been submitted in accordance with the requirements. I know the land use department is going through some personnel changes, but I know that the folks that are in there are doing their absolute best.
No, I know, but I mean, as far as us as commissioners, we don't have any of that stuff here.
We have electronic
We have
version.
electronic, and I never looked at any of it. Any of you that submitted this new stuff or whatever, I have none of it.
There's no new stuff. We didn't submit any.
No, I understand that, but I mean, if there was, for me just to look over it, I mean, he gave us this, but I don't have anything else. Yeah, I don't approval. That's sole approval. What's the new? I don't see.
We follow.
I got all that. I'm saying to you is, listen, I'm just stating to you that I don't have it.
Okay.
You know what I mean, and so I'm not really, I can ask you other questions. Like I asked you about the metal, I asked you about all that stuff. I asked you about the groundwater. That may be a condition I want.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, but I don't have any of that.
And the commission is certainly willing to, or certainly it's within your power to add that as an additional condition.
No, I got that. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
Not right now.
All right. Well, let's go to the public. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to comment on this application? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff. My name is Joel Green. I practice law in Bridgeport. The law offices of Green and Gross. And it's my pleasure to appear before you this evening on behalf of the intervenor, Peter Metropolis, trustee. Mr. Metropolis owns the property at 36 Timothy Hill that abuts the properties that are the subject of this application. I'm here because Mr. Metropolis is concerned about the groundwater and the cleanliness of the groundwater and the impact of this project on the groundwater that runs under his property as well, directly next door. This is like deja vu. I mean, we were all here before, and I hear the applicant saying that it's the same application, it's the same application, it's the same application. And it's kind of interesting because we're not in the same place. And it may be the same application, but it is not the same site right at the moment. And the applicant has made a kind of, I guess if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it, but you have to be a little bit more forthright with the commission as to what occurred here. The reality of what occurred here is after the applicants, and by the way, let me just digress for one moment. When I say deja vu, I don't anticipate anything in terms of the length of the hearings that we had in the past and the kind of the everything that we went through and the many nights of hearings. But I think that there is a basic inquiry that this commission needs to make on an application that is a new application. But just so that the record is clear, and just because I've got to address some of the comments that were made, the applicant again refers to the work that was done on the site by the prior owner and seems to want to distance themselves from what the quote prior owner did after they acquired the property or before they acquired the property in 2019. And even in the presentation tonight, while the applicant admits that there was a notice of violation issued by inland wetlands, the applicant leaves out the fact that there was a notice of violation issued by the zoning enforcement officer as well. And the applicant kept right on going with site work until the notice of violations were issued in the fall of 2020. And similarly, we went through this whole process and we went through an excavation and fill permit application. And this commission granted it. I had raised the waiver issue. To this commission. And I had suggested that you could not waive a lot of these provisions of the zoning regulations, and this is what they say. But the commission granted the application. We took an appeal. And while the appeal was pending, the applicant kept working. And the law says you can do that, but you do it at your peril. Meaning, and I think that was referenced tonight, even by the applicant. In the face of an appeal, they started filling this site and they had on-site materials. And the fact of the matter is, and what the applicant is leaving out is there was material going into the site and there was material coming off the site throughout that period. And that's important that the commission understands that. And when the applicant said that Mr. Metropolis waited before he brought his application for cease and desist, well, that's really not true. The decision by the court came down at the end of April. Like 4 weeks later or 5 weeks later, we couldn't believe that this applicant kept going. They kept working on the site. So I filed an application for cease and desist and in fact a motion for contempt where I said this court made a finding that these activities don't meet the zoning regulations. And we couldn't get a hearing till September. And I just want to be clear, and I think the record should be clear, and you can look it up on the judicial website, that there was an order granted by the court because of what the applicant was doing at the site and continuing to do at the site. We had filed a motion for contempt, and the court said, Judge Radcliffe, in September, granted in part, the motion for contempt is denied. The motion for a restraining order is granted as to those activities which require the issuance of an excavation and filling permit by the Monroe Planning and Zoning Commission. The restraining order is effective until such time as the excavation and filling permit is obtained by the applicant. And the order goes on, but the point is, this applicant kept right on going, kept right on trucking, as they say, both ways. And I think it's very interesting tonight that in response to questions by this commission, the applicant basically admitted that they were processing concrete, rebar, reinforced concrete, and crushing and removing metal. And this, we discussed the last time around, that you can't do it on a site. You can't process material on site. And I believe that Commissioner Ambrosi had raised this several times in the course of the hearing on the last application. And tonight we hear that like 3 containers of rebar were trucked off site or whatever it was. So there was processing on site. And when we appeared before you, we said, you can't do that either. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because let's talk about where we are now. Where we are now is, first of all, the applicant, after all this activity over the last 22 months, since we were last here in January of 22, the applicant has kept on going and the site is different. Now the applicant appears before you tonight with an application and says, oh, we want a do-over because now waivers have been granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Here's everything we gave you in 2021. And my answer is, it's 2023 now, everyone. It's November of 2023. The site now looks like that. So giving this commission an existing survey, a survey that shows what the site looked like before the first application, while it may be of interest and it may be part of the record, your regulations talk about an excavation and fill permit having certain requirements, including an existing condition survey. So while I understand that this applicant may say, this is a lot of the same stuff and it's a lot of the same material and we're in the middle of the excavation and fill permit that you had granted before, the applicant's got to provide a little more about where things stand now in terms of providing a survey as to what it looks like now, answering with a little bit to the point of the chair's question, answering with a little bit more detail where we are now, what has been received on site, what the site looks like now, and where we go from here. Because to stand before the commission and say, we're going to start where we were in August or September of 2021, well, we're way past that. So I would also add that we are having the plans reviewed by a consultant after they were refiled. The plans were filed. This application was only filed 28 days ago. Try finding a consultant, hiring a consultant, and getting a consultant to review a plan within 28 days and give you a report and show up at a hearing within 4 weeks. So that can't be done. The procedures of this commission are governed by the rules of natural justice and fundamental fairness. So in fairness, the public and the intervener needs a little bit more time to look at what was filed originally. But going a little bit further, there were comments by the engineer, there was a question by the engineer, there was a response that really does not respond directly to what the engineer was asking in terms of the current state of the project, along with the amount of remaining earthwork. And the applicant admits here that in some portions of the site, a depth of 40 feet of new soil has been added to the site. And there should be, and if the applicant has complied with its material intake protocol that it keeps referring to, then it should be easy to provide reports, to provide information to this commission so that the record is complete. But I would also submit that there are materials that were shown tonight that have not been submitted into the record. There was apparently a packet provided to the commission And by the way, this is all happening quickly, and I understand the challenges, so I'm not being critical, but I'm pointing these things out to say that there were apparently materials provided to the commission that don't appear online. There was a report submitted by the applicant, and I'm not sure what report that is, but it's not part of the record. And the applicant said it was not part of the record in the last application because it happened afterwards. And I know it was not submitted by the applicant with its application, it's before the commission. So I guess my first comment, and again, I don't look at this being anything approaching what we went through last time, but I do think that we should have an opportunity to go through this in a little bit of a thoughtful way. So my first request to the commission on this is to hold this hearing open and to not close the public hearing on this evening because once again, this application is extensive. New materials have been submitted in the last couple of days. New materials have been submitted at this hearing, which I haven't seen. And I think, I guess I would ask the commission initially if we can get some clarity on what the commission's intention is on holding the hearing open. Because I don't need to go on this evening. And by the way, I don't, and I know this is the third time I'm saying it, but I don't envision a long and protracted presentation on this, but I think there's going to be some opportunity to look at what's been submitted and assess it. So I guess at this juncture, I would ask the commission what the commission's intention is on the application.
I think in all fairness, we should be heard before the commission makes a decision about whether to hold the hearing open or not. We do have some comments.
Do you have any questions? The commissioners have any questions for Attorney Green?
I do.
Okay, let's go there first.
Your client has the abutting property.
Right.
And he's concerned about groundwater pollution.
Correct.
Has he done any testing on his property for the groundwater?
I don't know that. I don't know that for sure.
There should be some sort of evidence. If he's concerned about groundwater, he should be testing the groundwater.
Well, we have hired a consultant to look at that actually. And I don't know what has happened. I don't know whether the groundwater's been monitored there in the past.
In the past or recently?
Yesterday, a month ago, or a year ago, I'm not sure about that.
Before this fill started?
I don't know.
Isn't that information you should have here tonight?
If the commission wants it.
If that's the main concern.
I mean, I don't think that the applicant disagrees with the fact that they could bring, any type of backup that's necessary, as far as the material intake protocol. I just think that what's going on here is a stall tactic. I think that this is a giant stall tactic and it's wasting everybody's time.
Well, I take.
If it wasn't, you could take offense, but if it wasn't a stall tactic, there would be a reason why he would have concern for there to be a problem with the water. If I had a problem and I was under the impression that I had an issue, it's very simple to test the water. We all know how to do it. We all know there's firms that can do this. He hasn't done that. There isn't any reason to believe that there's a problem with that groundwater right now.
Well,
testing has been done.
That's not true, though. By the way, we've incorporated the entire record, and I presume that incorporates our presentation when we were before you last. Another thing that was represented tonight was that the court found, quote, the court somehow found that the groundwater, that there were no adverse impacts. And the court did not make that finding.
So where's your evidence of pollution?
My evidence of pollution was presented, well, on the initial hearing that we had on the original application, we did.
Where is it now? Because it's 2023, as you said.
It's in the record of this proceeding, as it was in the record of the proceeding before, in that there was demolition material found in the site.
But if your client's never tested his own water, like Dom said, how do we know there's pollution?
Or even reason to
believe there's pollution.
But it doesn't matter.
It does matter. If that client is saying that there's pollution, and he hasn't tested his water in all these years.
I didn't say that.
That's a concern of mine.
I didn't say
You
that.
said that you just hired someone yesterday.
No, not yesterday.
You said you didn't know.
Yeah.
I said I didn't know. But I do know that we've hired a consultant
When?
2 weeks ago.
This project's been going on for years.
This application was filed 28 days ago. There are materials that were put in the record before this commission tonight.
That hole has been in the ground for years. You would think you would test it then, and then as they fill it, you would test it so that you could see a pattern, correct? Or am I wrong?
I don't know.
What don't you know? What don't you know?
Yeah, just a moment. I believe my client is online and he can respond on some of these facts, but as a procedure, let's talk, there's two things that are going on here.
I just want my question answered.
We won't answer your question, but.
Go ahead.
As to whether we tested the groundwater?
Did you, when that hole's in the ground? That hole?
And it's the very basis of your argument here.
Wait a second. This is an application that involves 64 Cambridge and 4 Independents. And this commission's charge in evaluating this excavation is not based on what is presently the state of the groundwater under my client's property. My client didn't over-excavate his property. My client did not bring excavation and fill material.
Can you just answer the question? I'm sorry, but we're talking around the question here. Please just answer the
This is a
question.
precise question.
Bruno.
Did you test the groundwater when the hole was open?
With our groundwater? I don't know.
Okay.
Let's see the point. Are any other questions?
There is a point because he's. No,
hold up here.
There is a.
Hold up. Wait a minute, hold
Are
up.
there any other questions?
I'm on the question.
Let's go on, Leon.
Don't tell me there's no point, because there is a.
There is a point here.
Let him
I
ask.
know, I just said there is a point.
All right, the point is, okay, the groundwater, the hole filled up with groundwater. And this application was in front of us. There was material brought into that site that wasn't supposed to be brought into that site. Never had a permit to bring it in there or anything like that. There was rebar brought in there. We have pictures of painted brick brought in there, was ceramic brought in there. They went through this material now. They found that there was rebar in there. Everybody saw there's not, this, that, it's all clean fill and this and that. They pulled out a bunch of rebar out of there, and I know that for a fact. Okay, so the groundwater should be monitored by the property owner where that fill is going into. And the groundwater should be monitored over and over and over again. That's why I asked Kevin if the groundwater was monitored by them. Because that goes and feeds everybody's groundwater, just not that property owners. And that's a GAA water site, and you people are beating up on this guy about monitoring groundwater when the property owner should be monitoring groundwater. That's what should happen here, and that's what this commission should require. We have an obligation for the town of Monroe, people that live here.
Hold on a second. I don't know why you're yelling at me.
Because you're over here beating up on him. Did he check the groundwater? No, the applicant should check the groundwater. That's what should happen here.
I'm asking if he checked the groundwater at his own property.
I'm telling you, what a ridiculous bullshit.
One at a time. Leon has.
Done with this bullshit here.
I mean, Commissioner Ambrosi, you could just.
Let them leave because that's the way they handle things.
All right.
Best way to handle it, because you know why? You're not worried about the town and people of Monroe.
I'm asking him a question about the water.
That's what the problem is here.
You should leave. You should leave.
Can I just?
Yeah, that's what I should do. You're beating up on something that you don't even have any idea what's going on. What are we here for? We're supposed to protect the public, right? We're supposed to protect the groundwater. We're supposed to make sure.
That's my question was about the groundwater.
Tell me about it.
How long has the fill been in the hole? The fill's been in the hole for what, 18 months? How long has the site been filled? I don't know.
I think the question's been answered.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's the point. The point is procedurally, there's several points. We're talking about substantive points on groundwater, but procedurally, you can't receive materials at a hearing that I don't get to see, and you close a public hearing that are before this commission. Materials that you receive. Materials you received today, by the way. Some of it.
All right, we understand that.
But did we close the hearing?
No, we're not closing it.
So I merely asked whether you were closing the public hearing or not.
But we wouldn't tell you,
whether there's groundwater or not, whether we've tested the groundwater.
We're not closing the hearing.
We're asking questions.
Not tonight, so relax.
Yeah.
We wouldn't close it, we would only close the hearing after we heard everybody.
Right, and that was time for commissioner questions. That was our time to ask questions.
I asked a question as to whether you're holding the public hearing open and you start asking.
We don't know until everyone,
Groundwater.
you brought up.
All right, let's move on, please.
Let's follow the procedure.
Well,
Would you like to move on or?
public hearing is going to be held open.
Yes.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I asked to be heard on that question, and I only think it's fair that I get
You
to.
will be able to as soon as Mr. Green's finished.
Right, but I would.
I will, I'm not going to forget about
Mine
you.
on whether the hearing should be closed or not, because we have specific points to address to what Mr. Green is stating.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Green.
And in terms of the drawings and in terms of a little bit more as to what's happened, what's been brought into the site and what the site looks like now. Has inland wetlands seen this application?
They don't need to.
Okay, Mr. Solly, please.
Apparently, the applicant does not believe that inland wetlands has to see the application. I disagree. It's up to inland wetlands as to whether they wish to look at this in the current context that it is presented. So.
All right, can we go on with the?
With the understanding that the commission is going to hold the public hearing open, I will sit down.
No, you should make all your comments now, whether they're keeping it open or closed. You have an obligation to put your statements on the record. Don't wait until the end. Don't wait to
Do you
sandbag.
have any arguments?
Well, please, this is not proper, Mr. Chairman, and you seem to be.
He's asking a question and that's all, and you'll have a turn to speak. We're in public participation now.
Keeps asking whether you're going to keep the hearing open, and I don't think there's a response to that, so I think he's all his comments out.
Well,
Excuse me, regardless of whether you're.
Yeah, I would like
or not, he should get all his points out tonight.
I would like
That's the way
you to go
process
ahead
goes.
with your other points, yes.
I am not in a position to present on this application
Okay.
at this moment.
Then can we go on with other participants? I think Mr. Metropolis wants to speak.
That's fine, but I would just suggest to this commission that this hearing has got to be kept open and.
Thank you.
And I apologize for getting excited. I appreciate your patience. I know that you're tired of seeing this site. We are all tired of looking at this site and looking at these applications. But procedure is procedure.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Now we'll go on. If there are any other members of the public,
Yes, Peter Metropolis, owner of 36 Timothy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All righty.
go ahead, Mr. Metropolis.
So your question, and I think it was Commissioner Maini, I can't see him in the computer here, who asked, there was testing done years ago when Harry Ellum, the former Monroe police officer, lived in the front house on Fan Hill. I have no wells. I don't know what the distance from the big hole in the ground to Fan Hill is, but I'm going to guess it's half a mile, quarter mile. You guys can tell me, I'm not sure. I haven't had that well tested, but I will for you. There is a well that has been dug on Mr. Karp's property right next to the quarry hole, and that hasn't been tested, not once. So I'm curious as to why he hasn't provided any testing there. But this water testing, the whole issue that we've had is nobody's tested the water or the material that came in. Chairman Riley, I've been listening remotely to 585 Pepper Street where you were worried about radioactive material and asbestos, but nobody's worried about all the 10,000 truckloads or whatever it's been that got brought in from various places such as Stratford. By the way, the demolition contractor who delivered all the material from Stratford High School to Monroe claims he's never dumped a single truckload in Monroe. So the other material that is technically demolition construction debris when it's, well, When it goes to 585 Pepper Street, I guess it's construction debris and everybody's worried about it. But when it comes to the quarry, nobody gives a crap. You got trucks, you got barges coming from New York. You got it getting barged over to the Bridgeport, what is it, Waters or ONG's loading docks. They put it on trucks that bring it to Monroe. They crush it. They take the metal off. That's called recycling. Nobody tested that equipment. Now, Joey Bag of Donuts, who's driving a goddamn truck, comes down with, he can either drive to Ohio with contaminated material, pay for fuel and pay $5,000 to dump it, or he can come give John Kimball cash or Arnold Carp and just pay the dump there. The town turns a blind eye. Now it got, now here we're at. It's like, come on, test something for once. You crush a ton of stuff. Why don't you look and see what's there? You got guys that you hired that use their nose like farm animals, circus animals there. That's crazy. Use your nose to test for asbestos? Doesn't work like that. Mr. Hollingsworth, I guess you're the economic advisor. Why is it that your former, Rick Schultz, says that you told him that Wade's Garage, a guy named Nick Jalal, was talking to you at City Hall? And he pointed out a guy. I go, who is that guy? And he goes, well, that's John Kimball. I go, oh yeah, that guy would let me pay him to dump whatever I wanted in the quarry. Did you say that or not? Tell this commission. Yeah, this is crazy. You've had so many truckloads, nothing's tested. The driver, yeah, he might be responsible, or maybe the construction, the property owner, nobody's tested. Arnold Carp is just running a scam where he's getting paid to take construction debris, crush it and fill it in a hole, which is a GAA site, which is, it's just ironic that nobody wanted to test. You had what? How many cubic acres of water that you just dumped into wetlands 1 over there? You just dumped that whole hole of water and you didn't test it. And Chairman Mayini, you made a comment a couple years ago. You feel like we're talking about the Russian conspiracy, who did what back in the day, if you remember that comment. Well, the government did it. That they lied about if who was firing with Russia. The whole thing's a joke. Just test something instead of saying you guys tested it.
This dude accuses me of one more thing on top of that screen. Just
all right. That's it. It's just, you
Is there anything else, Mr. Metropolis?
It's like, come on, why don't you do something for the residents of Monroe? Just test something, hire somebody.
Hey, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Can I clear something up?
Hold on a second. Yep, go ahead.
I'm just wanting the unsafe testing. Everything they've done over the years, they've tested the groundwater, no?
Yes. If I may, Kevin Solon for the record, part of the last application, the applicant submitted a report by a licensed environmental professional in the state of Connecticut from WSP. They tested the groundwater in multiple locations on the property. They tested all of the material on the property, both native material from the quarry screenings that was there as part of the previous operation and material that was imported to the property. All of that material was tested. It was reviewed by an LEP from the applicant, an LEP that the town engaged as part of the process, and an LEP that was hired by Metropolis and the intervener. It was looked at 9 different ways. The water was tested. The water was clean. We are making allegations and impugning the character of people who don't deserve that whatsoever.
And I'm also hearing that the materials that were brought in have never been tested. They've all been manifested.
All been tested. Everything has been tested, and the material that was placed below the elevation of the groundwater was only the native material from the quarry screenings, from the material that was there before, in accordance with the approvals.
And which had been tested.
And that work was overseen by the third-party reviewer that the town mandated. The only thing I submitted this evening was a report that was previously presented to this commission on their meeting on May 4th. And I believe that Mr. Green was probably in attendance at that meeting. because they have been very focused on this
I
application.
think you've answered the question. Thank you. Order has been, Mr. Green, not yet, not your turn again. Did you have,
Everything's been tested.
thank you.
Hold up for a minute. Material that was crushed and the rebar removed out of it
Yes.
was put into the hole, no?
It was not put below the elevation of groundwater.
I understand
It was
that.
placed
I
above that
understand.
elevation.
I got
Yes.
all that, right.
And that material was tested.
The material was tested.
Yes.
You have the testing results on it? Because I don't have.
It was tested and it was submitted as part of the previous application, which is part of this record.
Application.
The previous application included.
No, there was
WSP.
samples taken in it. I'm saying when it was crushed and everything, was there any samples taken out at that point?
NSAFE did that review. NSAFE provided that information to the commission as part of their previous reports from May 4th. And before.
I don't have that. That's why I'm asking you that. I don't have.
It was submitted as part of the, WSP did the testing of that material.
Right, okay.
And it was submitted to this commission and presented on May 4th of 2023.
Like I said to you, I don't have the whole.
Commissioner
thing in
Ambrosi,
front
we're
of
still in public participation. We'll get back to the commissioners.
me. Okay.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say as far as answering questions? If not, I think your attorney, Attorney Finn had something that he'd like to say.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with regard to this 28 days, the fact of the matter is that the judge's order, and yes, Mr. Green tried to hold my client in contempt for continuing to do the work after the court's decision overturning the planning and zoning approval was handed down. He tried to hold us in contempt. The judge rejected that. The judge said, you know what, I'm not finding anything incorrect with the fact that you continue to do work.
All right, well, we don't need to hear this.
Look, he's tried to tarnish my client by saying I served him with a contempt motion. Well, the motion for contempt was denied.
We're only concerned with the regulations here tonight, okay? Please don't go into the past legal battles.
Okay, understood, Mr. Chairman. So, you already approved this work, right? You've approved the work that's already been done. It's the court that said you couldn't grant the waivers. We got the variances that substitute for the fact that the waivers were declared invalid. So everything is blessed now, except for the fact that the court said you really should have gotten the variances before. Well, we couldn't have gotten the variances before because you had zoning regulations that allowed you to grant waivers. So we couldn't get the variances until the court said your waiver provision is illegal. Once he said the waiver provisions are illegal, we got the variances. And I think this is an important point. I had discussions with your town council, Barbara Schoenberg, and with Rick Schultz about whether we even had to come back before you for this new permit because we had gotten the variances. So, and Rick and Barbara concluded, no, you don't have to come back before this commission. The court in its wisdom has said, no, you do have to come back. And what Mr. Green did not read to you, I have the order right here. You left out, any permit will be subject to a variance granted by Monroe Zoning Board of Appeals on July 18, 2023, concerning the 4 waivers that we needed. So the court contemplated that the waivers, the variances were substitutes for the waivers. And I repeat that this idea that they only had 28 days, this order came back out on September 14th. That's more than 2 months ago. That order said we needed to go back to this commission. And I think the fact that there is no positive testing, I mean, there is no, they said we don't know whether there's been any testing. You can bet your bottom dollar that if there was a positive test result for groundwater on Mr. Metropolis's property, you would have seen a report to that effect, right? So this is all a stall tactic. This is easy. It's easy. Variances substitute for the waivers. It should be done. It should allow us to continue this work. It shouldn't fall for the stalling tactics. You should close the hearing tonight.
work that's already been done was pursuant to a permit you already granted. You already granted it, and it's been monitored. The materials that was tested before, it's been, the groundwater was tested before, all the material was reviewed by your monitor, he made reports to you, we gave you the summary of his report, which you already had. This is really just a dog and pony show to try to keep this thing open for as long as possible. The idea that we have to go back to the Inland Wetlands Commission, they already granted us a permit. That permit was upheld by the court. He tried to appeal that to the appellate court. They denied that. So I'm done. Thank you very much. I urge you, please, let's move forward. Let's get this work done. Thank you.
And in accordance with their intervention petition that they filed, the statutes are very clear. They have to demonstrate that the proceeding involves conduct which has or which is reasonably likely to have the effect of unreasonably polluting, impairing, or destroying the public trust in the air, water, or other natural resources of the state of Connecticut. We have seen nothing demonstrating that this is going to have an unreasonable pollution to any of those elements. They haven't provided any of that. And all of their previous reports, which were done as part of the last application, are part of the record. They didn't do it then either.
Arnold Carp for the record. As the property owner, I'm tired of hearing about what could be there. We have now gone through all the material. It has been reviewed. We've spent $100,000 plus on a third party who was there more times than I care to mention. I believe they keep on referring to May 5th. I believe he spoke to you guys during the process. This has been all above board. They are trying to diminish the value of my property and hold us up, okay? We're not able to finish what should be, when I say finish, get to the next phase on something that is very easy, okay? We've got a little bit of earth to move. Leon, I can tell you, having been on that site more times than I care to mention with guys who are all, 30-year contractors, there is nothing, and I own the property, okay, under an LLC, that will come back to this commission or myself now or in the future because it was watched from sunup to sundown by qualified people. This has been the same, let's wait, let's diminish my value. When you asked Commissioner Westland about Phil, we can't get Phil because I've been held up by the court. So I can't even on local projects get anything shipped into this site because nobody wants to get into the middle of this. But it's continued. This site is as clean as anything we've ever worked on. It's had more review. If you'd like to add a provision on the update that we provide some water testing, we're happy to do that. There is nothing that has gone on this site during my ownership that it hasn't been watched over. We've gone through every pile. We have followed what we said to you guys as far as intake. There's been very little because of the ongoing court issues. But to tie us up continually, I have contractors who work. They then have to disappear for months at a time. They then come back. They work a little bit. So, but I'm tired of hearing about, what could be there. We have gone through it. It is clean. This is just an attempt to diminish my value and to make sure that the property is never properly developed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on and we're going to continue this hearing for 2 weeks, since I have questions for our legal counsel, who is not with us tonight.
As part of that, I know there was some discussion, but obviously things got a little heated there. If there are specific elements that this commission would like to see from us prior to the hearing being continued, we'd love to hear it. We did submit a plan which provided documentation on the grades of the property as of March of this year. And we can certainly provide more specific volumes in terms of what else is
Is
left.
there anything else you'd want to see?
Well, go ahead.
Next hearing for the next week, 2 weeks from now.
You Can you test the groundwater?
We can certainly see if we can get.
How many wells do you have here?
Well, there was.
How many do you have, Arnold?
I think we took samples I think we took 3 samples before. I'm not sure if all those are still in existence. But there were certainly areas downgrading from where the fill was placed, where.
I am happy, there are no active wells on the site because there's no power to the site because of we're trying to finish the cul-de-sac, so there's no power to the site, so I can't operate the well. I'm happy to take it from, different places on the site that we can get to, including.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, Arnold, and believe me, I'm not over here just trying to pick on you or whatever. We understand what this site was and what this site started off as, okay? It should have never got to that point.
Which has nothing to do with.
It has nothing to do with, no, but I'm just trying to say that.
Would you like anything brought to the next?
But I'm just trying to say that we just have to, I have concerns about the groundwater. And that's all I have concerns about. And if the groundwater test's fine, and it's not just for one guy, it's for everybody, because we're on wells here. And so it's not, everybody's not on city water. A lot of people are still on wells. And so that's what it all comes down to.
Everything around here is on public water. Aquarian is our butter. We've gone to them. We've notified them of this application again. They have never found any concern over any of the information that's been provided.
Is there any other?
I just want to test it.
Exhibits that any of the other commissioners would like to see?
I'm good.
No. Okay. All right, then we'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on. There's our agenda here. I would like to add an extension request to the agenda. Excuse me.
I'm listening. You want to add to the agenda? Go ahead. I heard you.
I need a motion
Motion to add to the agenda. Go ahead.
and a second.
Second. I'm not seated, never mind.
All those in favor?
No, she's not seated. Has to be somebody.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I have in a letter from Solely Engineering on behalf of 10 and 36 Main Street LLC. We formally request that the commission grant an extension of the time allowed to complete the work associated with the above referenced permit. Approval by 2 years to October 21st, 2025. While significant progress has been made, filling inside additional time is needed to achieve the design, plan grades, and meet the conditions of the permit.
This is in front of Swiss Army.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
This letter was found in a file. It was never acted upon. It was sent to us on August 22nd of this year, looking for this extension. The previous planning administrator had left it in a file. It was never acted upon. It was not brought before this commission, which is why we're bringing it before the commission tonight to ask for this approval.
A little late. Better late than never. Any questions about this?
No, I'm good.
Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to grant the extension.
I make a motion to grant the extension.
Second.
Okay, we'll call the roll starting on my right.
Yes.
Ambrosi, yes.
O'Reilly, yes.
Yes. Westland, yes.
Okay, the extension is granted. All right, so we've tabled the text amendment. So we do have deliberation. This is the deliberation on RAA 2023-10, file number 1033E, 588 Pepper Street. This is the change of use that you all discussed last meeting when I wasn't here. We have in front of us
this somewhere.
I think you have enough people seated.
Yeah, we have enough.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's enough.
No, because we see the comment.
But he wasn't here.
So I'm not voting. So we have 4. That's enough. You don't want to waste your.
Don't waste your
I
seating.
need to be a tiebreaker. I could, okay.
I can step in.
I'll step in.
You'll step in for the tiebreaker.
Did you listen to the?
She was here.
All right, so then CP for the vote. Okay, so there is a tie. This is controversial also. All right, so you want to read it since you were doing?
I got you. This is the, what am I reading, all of this?
First page.
All right, so this is for amendment petition for the application for zoning regulation sections 2.2.1, 8.2.3S, 10.1, and 10.2. Here, Mr. Solly, please be advised, your revised application for regulation text amendment includes a definition for sorting and handling has been approved with the following conditions. Section 2.2.1 definition, the commission has approved the definition of sorting and handling facility as represented in your application without change. Section 8.2.3S, subparagraph 6 denoted with the list of CTDEP definition, construction and demolition materials that can be sorted in class 2 facility. The commission has requested the removal of the following. The letters are going to be a little bit different, but that's just the way they were organized. Appliances with CFC, Freon. K was oversized municipal solid waste. M was scrap tires. T was unauthorized and unprocessable waste. Q was, I don't even know what that is.
Capacitors.
Capacitors and ballots. And R was propane tanks with valves. Section 10.1, scheduled for permit land use by zoning districts. The commission has approved the usage table. 10.2, scheduled for permitted land use by zoning district. The commission has approved the bulk standards as presented. The commission has also required that appropriate rodent control measures be taken in the facilities in order to not allow an infestation. The measures can be added to the definition section 2.2.1 or made part of the overall SEP requirements in section 8.2.3S.
Okay, is there any discussion about this? This is a sorting. The most
I've read in here.
Sorting.
All the stuff that we wanted out of there in there, right?
Yeah, that's, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I have a couple of questions. So instead of changing zone to this one, business.
It's a use, I believe. It's not a zone change.
Oh, it's a use.
It's allowing a different use within the industrial.
Within that zone.
Industrial. So they're not able to go like to the ZBA and request a variance for this particular use?
No, it's just a change of use.
If we change this usage, how many, approximately, how many other, lots are in this?
I don't think there's that many, with all the requirements that we have in here. I don't think there are going to be too many people that are coming in for this. They have to be a big, big process plant for them to make it. We took all this other stuff out of here.
I don't know, I'm just super concerned about, we could put all the regulations that we want, but this, like you've seen, it's construction material, it can be anything. I think there's just too much potential for disaster or just, that's just how I feel.
Any other commissioners have any discussion?
So with this change in usage, what is different between I-1 and I-2? Are we now making this kind of like a, I'm kind of on the side of Dom. I don't know if I want to change a use just for one person. Because now we're getting into that spot, and that's, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. It's setting a precedence because now we're hearing, well, in this last application, you did this, so I know I want that.
I don't know how many people are going to want to
conform to, which is not going to be easy.
I don't know how many people are going to want to open up their own dumpster company to dump their own materials in.
You never know.
I mean, it's all indoor too.
That's the part.
So the other thing.
Correct.
It's not outdoor. It's all processed.
They can't leave anything outside.
It's all self-contained within the building. So the contamination part of it is, any of it would be in the building, and all the drains are in the building, and they have to pump them out, and you have to check them, they got to take them somewhere else. So all that's self-contained.
Okay.
So for somebody else to come in here and try to do that, as far as being outside, that's not going to happen.
Outside's totally different ballgame.
It's totally different ballgame.
I mean, there could be a fire, there could be an explosion.
Well, it could be a number of things, but I'm
That
saying
could
to you,
happen
that could be
anytime,
anywhere.
too.
What I'm saying to you is that it's self-contained within the building itself. There's nothing that can ever be outside that building, ever. But that's basically what it comes down to. And I know what it is that they're taking it and just take it to remove it, to move it to certain places
this
to go to.
facility-
It's not like, it's like taking the metal out of it and just taking that and bringing it to the metal place and then taking the rest of the stuff that's got to go somewhere else. That's what happens with this. That's all that is. It's not something
But
that's.
this place is too small to keep this.
It's way
stuff-
too
to keep
small.
material in there.
Yeah, you can't do it. There's no way to get it in and out of there.
It has to get out.
There's just one container in, one container out.
He doesn't have the room to keep it
I
in.
mean, we went through this over the subcommittee, really extensive when we first looked at it. So.
I'm more comfortable with the way it's structured now also. I get what you're saying, but there's a lot of limitations that are put in place to try to safeguard against some of what you're worried about.
Any other discussion? Right. And I need a motion
I make a motion to approve.
and a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'll call the roll, starting on my right.
He's not seated on.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
He's seated for Ryan.
Oh, yeah, you're seated for Ryan.
Smirgalino, no.
Ambrosi, yes.
Mayini, yes.
Westland, yes.
Lupo, no.
All right.
3-2.
Motion passes 3-2. Like that?
Much better. Much
I think, now, we closed the ARR, didn't we?
We did close the ARR meeting.
So we can deliberate on that. RAA 2023-11, this is change the text of the ARR district. Two changes. One, to allow the buildings to be closer together from 35 to 25 feet, which is what the applicant wants, and then to reduce the allowable bedrooms from 3 to 2, which is something that they were giving us, at least they thought. I like that, to sweeten the pie there.
Well, I'd like to cut down the bedrooms. It's just that the problem that I have with it is it's just going to create more structures.
Does it really though?
Well, basically, I mean, that's the only reason why you would be doing this.
What's the benefit of that?
Benefit of what?
Plus,
At the end of the day,
at the end of the day,
you only have a certain.
more
amount of
units that you
density
could sell, it increases.
Up to 6%, so it is kind of capped.
It is.
Townwide, yes.
Townwide. I'm not talking, I'm talking about that one.
That's even
We don't
better.
even have that application in front of us, so we wouldn't even know what it would be. Yeah, I mean, it's like that for a perfect example. The other one we approved,
Colors Farm?
no, the one that's up there by, up on, Monroe Turnpike. Remember the one that had that thing with the jog going in and it came back and it was totally turned around to something else? Remember, it turned out to be, the guy said he was only going to put 2 bedrooms in them, and then all of a sudden they all went into 3 bedrooms.
I don't remember that.
That's the one we're talking about.
That's what we're talking
What I'm
about.
talking about again, he's changing that again?
Yes, it's the third time.
Yes.
One?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
It's the same.
keeps getting
The one,
It's the third time you changed that.
this is the one across,
Yeah.
this is the one across from the firehouse.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought this was down further. No.
No. This is the one across from the firehouse. They started removing the trees already.
So this is the one that they changed it again,
Correct.
3 times.
Third
New
time.
developer, different model.
This isn't the one that was at the subcommittee meeting?
No.
He brought it up a little bit.
No.
But I wasn't to that. The last time he came
mean the
to the
last
subcommittee, I wasn't there. I don't think I was there for that one.
No, this is different.
I wasn't there for that one.
restricted near the fire.
This is near the firehouse.
On 111, up almost by 30.
Yeah, well.
This is the one that there's wetlands there and you had the loop tree there and, yeah, it's.
So they're,
So you're gonna add more units? There's gonna add more units to that. There's no doubt in my mind that you're not gonna do that because if you're cutting out the 35 feet, you're gonna have more units. And there was a tight spot in there anyway. I don't know. It's hard to do this and then all of a sudden the application changes and we get,
Don't worry, they'll change it again. They'll change
you know what I'm saying? It's just, that's what happens. And
I say fifth time's a charm.
So this is a legal change that we're making. So
Yes.
we can do it or we cannot do it. There's really not much of an appeal or anything like that, doesn't it?
I think the third time we changed, the second time we changed, he went back to 2 bedrooms, right? Yeah, I think so, right?
I don't think so.
They
No,
don't
it's
have
just
the last one.
the site.
No, they
Changed.
The site plan changed, right, but I thought it was still went back to 2 bedrooms.
It was,
Because he wanted to change something else over there.
no, this is the first time they've come with us with 2 bedrooms.
I don't think it's earth shattering in either direction.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I'm fine with it. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think we're.
Okay.
Following the POCD by trying to promote.
Then you want to direct,
Direction, I would,
approval?
I would, in my opinion, I would direct staff to make an approval.
All right,
That's just me.
right. And then,
Let's get everything we want in it and then get it set up for next week.
So we've closed the hearing on it.
Correct.
So no new additional materials can come in.
Correct.
It's going to have to be another letter.
It's gonna be this way.
we're going to write up an approval for it, and then we're going to vote on it next meeting. You are.
We say we. What were your terms on that?
We need to.
Well, actually, you're just going to, we're going to adopt the language that they submitted.
We need, we're on the first selectmen.
We take a recess.
Oh, he's done.
It's gonna take us.
What's the language?
I'm fired.
Yeah, I know very well.
Go ahead, you can go.
This language that they changed,
Gotcha.
these two things, that has to be written like officially,
Oh, official, all official like.
proving that, and then we have to go in and change the actual regulations in those two spots.
Yes,
We'll vote on it in 2 weeks.
I'll do that when we do the and or.
So you're gonna look for the end of it.
Get Leon going again.
All right, where were we now? Pending minutes.
Are we gonna do that?
Well, we got them before us. We have the minutes of July 18th special meeting. July 18th. Chair would entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the July 18th special.
That was the ZBA.
Oh, never mind.
Those are the minutes from ZBA that I was asked to provide you.
The August 20, August 24th. Yeah, the August 24th special. meeting.
I saw them here somewhere. I don't know where they are now.
August what?
That's August 24th.
Special meeting.
Right here. Seated there.
What are you talking about?
Very brief.
Yeah, when you're not around, we don't do much.
All right, so motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept.
A second. A motion and a second. Any discussion or changes?
No, I don't see any.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We will accept the August 24th minutes.
Is that 5-0 or 4-0?
4, Dom's not here. Nicole got booted out of her seat. Can't believe you used your seat for that.
Okay, we have other business.
What's that?
Child group daycare permit. Oh, that's something that we've been notified by the first selectman that he's going to send a letter so that we don't have to act on this by the deadline.
Correct. We're going to notify OPM tomorrow.
We have 90 days further before we have to act on the child.
Will give us some more time to talk about it and stuff like that?
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Now, back to Bill.
Staff report, we got there already?
Yeah, ready.
So in your supplemental packet, I was asked for the zoning approval as well as the K7 reports for the two new businesses that opened up. One is at 585 Main Street. It's Auto Kingdom. You'll find the zoning certificate of approval attached. And you'll also find the K7 that was filed with DMV. Rick Schultz is the signatory on this as of 8/11. The second document in your packet is 604 Main Street, and this is the CM collision repair. This was signed by Dylan on September 5th. And behind that is the K7 report. The third document in line there is the meeting minutes from a special meeting from August 24th of this year, where there was question as to whether or not Dylan was appointed as as the agent for the zoning.
He was appointed.
He was appointed.
Yes.
As per these, but there was a question from one of the commissioners that didn't think that that was the case and asked for these meeting minutes to be provided, and here they are.
You? Yeah.
If Dylan was approved?
Well, yeah, because of these K7s that were signed.
All right, he was appointed, but it does not reflect that in the minutes at all. No.
So if it doesn't reflect in the minutes, what does that mean?
Hold on.
It means we should have.
The minutes?
Revised the minutes that we already accepted. I mean, I distinctly recall that we did that.
Yeah, I do. too.
Motion to approve appointment of Dylan Willett as zoning enforcement officer. Motion was made by Mayini. Seconded by Condon and voted 5-0.
That's fine.
All in favor?
Because that's not the question I have here with this stuff.
All right, so let's get to the stuff.
Yep.
So these are auto repair, body repair facilities.
One's an auto repair shop and one's a body repair shop, yes.
Are they in?
Well.
B1?
B1, and you can't have a body shop in a
Yeah,
B1.
that's right. And not a zero.
And that's where the rub is.
The rub is that. My back. This was brought to your attention when this K7 was signed by only one official. I brought this to this town's thing. I said, this has to come in front of this commission. And I said, the building official shouldn't sign off on it, nor should the fire marshal before this was brought to this commission. This is now signed off. So I don't know how that happened, but the state law requires that this be signed off. And I know that this was not signed off because I was up there because I got a complaint from a body shop owner about this. And so I was up there way before 1024 to discuss this with you. I pulled this application out and this was not signed. And I said, it's signed now and it should have never been signed because, well, you had, and building official. This document was not signed when I looked at it.
So
I don't know how this got signed. This was supposed to go to the town's attorney to review this, okay? And now this is signed. This should have never been pushed through, ever.
What does that mean at this point?
The zoning certificate of compliance was the first thing that was signed.
I understand that, but the rest of it, in order to get a license with the state of Connecticut, like I told you, all these have to be signed. Every one of them has to be signed. And I said to hold up on this and not to have this signed until we had the attorney look at this.
We did not distribute this to these individuals.
Well, then how did this get signed?
I don't know how it got signed, Leon.
Schultz signed it.
I didn't sign it.
Signed one of them.
And then Dylan signed the other one.
I looked at this, I looked at this application.
If it's not permitted in that zone and it's signed for, what does that mean?
We can't permit it in this zone. The body shop can't exist, and the town's attorney was supposed to.
But the application for zoning approval was signed by Rick.
I understand that. He could not legally sign that unless it came in front of the commission. The law, the state.
In the event of a mistake, what happens?
Yes, I don't know, because.
It's an error.
It's an error, but we took body shops out because we didn't want them on the main corridors anymore. They had to go away.
It was an error. We get it. No one's disputing it.
But the thing is, before this ended, I went and looked at this and I told them that if they don't sign off on the rest of this, this guy could never attain a license. And now this is all signed off and it should have never been signed off.
Okay, it's signed off.
So how does that happen?
How do we fix that?
We'll have to refer it to,
I don't know. I don't know if maybe the applicant brought it to the people individually and had it signed. But it wasn't something that I solicited or anybody in my department solicited.
two applicants.
So what do we do?
We don't take a K7.
Talk to the attorney.
All right, so we're gonna have.
Nobody in planning and zoning or in wetlands took a K7 in. And had it sent around to the department heads for signature. The applicant went to these department heads and got the signature.
I've done this 5 million times, okay? I moved my business and I had to go through it. It cost me $50,000 to move my business. $50,000 to move my business. US? And it was zoned for it, okay? Come in front of the commission, have to do all this stuff, make sure this is in place, this is in place, this is in place. And I have 4 other business owners that done the same thing that are upset about this. And this should have never, ever happened because the state law specifically reads the way it should go. And this is not the way it's done anywhere, in any town, anywhere. And I've done 2 applications already, but I'm saying, Bill, these weren't signed off and now they are. And I don't understand how that happened because the town should know the zoning regulations from the state of Connecticut.
I know, I'm just saying, those 2 guys are not here anymore, so how do we fix it?
One guy was very new and there was an error. It was an
Well,
error.
the one guy was told to sign off on
I
it.
think Leon's concern is more about the building official and the fire marshal's signature on the case.
He's never been on there.
And he is concerned about the zoning.
Well, auto repair is allowed. It should go to auto.
Auto repairs are allowed, but Mike, even with a new guy coming in with an, he has to come in front of us. Like the guy that went into up on in the industrial park, the one that wanted to do the repairs for the trucks, he came in front of us. He laid out everything, his oil containers, where everything's going. You have to have all that for the state.
Right, change of use. Was this a change of use, this auto
It
body?
is a change of use. That body
It
shop,
is a change of use, but it used to be an auto shop.
it used to be a tire repair shop, the last license on this shop.
So this doesn't comply with this one, with the regulations.
Which is what we've asked the town attorney to review.
You already have.
We have,
Right.
because this has been signed, that zoning certificate of compliance has been signed.
If you're the applicant, you have a case on your hands.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a few things that we have to consult the attorney about for,
That one's going to be interesting.
Additionally, we've gotten another complaint in on 125 Garter Road. The complaint came in today regarding the blasting occurring on Garter Road. The complaint informed me that the prior blast of November 7th, 2023 had no seismograph set up in the area and was concerned about such. He also noted a large cloud of dust was lingering about his house and that of the neighbors, which in the neighborhood meeting, there was mention of a well being on site, to which I do not know if that even occurred. I did check with the health official, to find out if there is a well on site. There is a permit for a well on site. However, the as-built that come in for wells are usually delayed, and we do not have one yet on file. The complainant also raised concerns about work starting as early as 6:30 in the morning.
And there is.
right, that's all.
There is.
Not according to the plan.
Well, we got to start taking action. We got to start with the first letter, the second letter, and the third letter. I'm bringing this to the attention for the second week in a row. We'll let you know about it.
All right.
All right, but this has to be handled by a ZEO, of which I am not a
What
ZEO.
happens in the event the CEO is not on duty, like at 6:30 in the morning? There's a violation going on. Who stands in at that point?
I don't know if anyone stands in.
Investigated without actually saying it. Because she's not here on weekends either.
But how do you substantiate what happened?
Well, I could substantiate it as far as going, taking pictures and going over it, because I hear it when it's going.
That's near your house.
Near my house. I can actually hear it. It's going. When it's going, I can hear
It's
it.
going on not during the hours it was approved in?
No. Sometimes.
I wonder what it is, because I wonder if it's up at the quarry
or if it's over there. And I haven't taken a ride over there, but when I hear it next time, I'm gonna take a ride over there and I'll just take a film of it with my thing and then take the time.
Carter Road, you're talking about.
Carter Road.
Yeah, well, that is a quarter now, too.
And the reason why the well is running is because they're doing that for dust mitigation.
Yeah, the dust.
Well, you said the well's not there.
I don't know if the well is there or not. What I know is that there's a permit pulled. They have a permit to put the well in, but the as-built of the well is usually delayed. They don't come immediately. So we don't have anything on file that says the well is or is not.
So is there a dust complaint over there or?
It is, it's a dust complaint.
You need to send somebody over there and see if there's a well, because they couldn't start doing that unless there was a well. It's just,
In the well?
I'm more concerned about the lack of seismometers with the blasting going on.
There was a last one, you know what I'm saying? How would the person put in the complaint that there wasn't size, you know?
Because he wanted one at his house, and he didn't have one at his house. And none of his neighbors that he spoke to had one at their house and specifically requested it.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
So I don't know how they're blasting without putting out those seismometers. I thought they were required. I don't know, but apparently I don't know much, so.
That's all it comes down to. Every time we have to do something.
It's telephone.
I have more.
Hey, Bill's still going.
At one of the prior meetings, you must have agreed with Mr. Schultz that you wanted to see all of the applications that come in for EV charging. I have 2 applications for EV charging. How would you like to review them? Do you want them to come in as SDPs? You want them to come in as SEPs? These are simple electrical permits. How would you like to review where these EV charging go?
All right, so somebody wants to put a electric vehicle charging unit.
Stop and Shop is the first one, Stop and Shop located at 470 Monroe Turnpike, and Sippin Energy also wants to put them in at 234 Main Street.
Yeah, they're trying to push a lot of them now. It's getting pushed all over the state. Being pushed.
Oh, they're mandated in new development of 30 parking spaces or more.
But they have to go in a certain area.
So would you like to review them?
I mean, they're supposed to go in a certain area.
Well, we're gonna have to set forth some guidelines.
Right, I think so. I agree with that, so we're gonna have to do that.
Okay, would you like to do that in a subcommittee?
Good idea.
That's a good idea, we'll bring it there.
Perfect. When would you like to have a subcommittee?
Last one I missed.
This Monday. I detected.
We did a lot that happened, yeah.
This Monday.
Because you weren't there, everyone zipped right.
This Monday, the 20th?
Good for you guys. We can't go to.
Can we get sworn in Monday?
No, next week, the 28th. That's looking the wrong day, sorry.
Yes. I thought he started.
Yeah, I guess.
Monday, the 28th, I think.
You know, not only the.
Sworn in at town council. Yes, 28th, get sworn in.
And that's what,
28th.
So why don't we push it to
I don't.
December on the thing?
27th of what, November?
You want the first weekend of December?
Second.
December 5th, guys?
Yeah.
It's November the 27th is swearing in.
No, that's Tuesday.
Monday night?
5:30?
Yeah.
I can do that.
Perfect.
December 4th. Yeah.
5th.
4th.
December 4th is good.
I was wrong, I don't have a calendar.
Is it 5th?
5th is a Tuesday, 4th is a Monday.
December 4th at 5:30?
Yes, sir.
We'll put together an agenda. We'll see what else we have on it besides plans for EV charging.
All right, let's not.
And seriously,
Okay.
if I show up, I'll bring pizza.
And at the last commission meeting,
No, sir, I'll bring pizza.
Commissioner Ambrosi wanted to pull information about Noble Gas and the idea of the drive-through. It was approved. It was approved in their initial plans. I can send those down to you.
I don't know, that's fine. Ryan told me the other day that he thought we approved it too.
Inspections for Chipotle with the fence and the plantings. So I was out there, I looked at the fence. The fence looks to be about 6 feet. It didn't take out a tape measure.
It is.
But I was asked to look into that. And then the lanes for Dunkin' Donuts. Commissioner Lupo had some questions about the lanes for that. So I got that as well.
You want to see it? You have the.
That's good. I got one.
You know, it's a Chipotle thing, right? Do you have the plans for that with you?
Yes,
You do?
yes.
This is not the previous regime. This is.
No,
You asked me to get the information for you. I got you the information you asked for.
Was the cul-de-sac,
Now you don't want it.
was the cul-de-sac supposed to stay?
That was his real question.
No,
Is this me or him?
that's you.
Oh, it's a freaking.
He said he didn't want to see it, so I won't see it.
It's a pond over there. I know it's a pond over there now. I don't know that. I love it because when I look into this.
That's their property. Half of it.
Is it gonna stay like
They
that?
actually are. Apparently somebody said something
I
about
think they have drains.
something to me and I said something to somebody about it.
Yes.
It's fine.
Brown part.
But I think they have piping that takes the water out.
That they, so, But then they.
This is 143, this is Chipotle. You want Chipotle? Do you want Chipotle? These are all originals, so I need them back.
I don't want.
All in that thing.
There's a pot. Let me, yeah.
Okay, do you have anything else, Bill? before-
No, that'll complete my report for the evening.
Okay.
Can you look into the pond?
What pond?
At Chipotle's.
Seriously, though.
No, that sounds like a wetland issue.
Yeah.
But was that approved?
What?
The pond?
No idea.
You're talking about a pond just from the rain or?
No, when you look at Chipotle, Mike, to the left, there's a lake. A lake, yeah, you could swim in if you wanted to. For sure. That's why I asked you, do you have a copy of that plan?
Yes. Did you want to see that one?
For Chipotle.
I started giving it to you and then you said you didn't want it.
You said you didn't want it. That's right. I just want to see if it has the pond in it.
Maybe the drains back there or something, I don't know.
You want to see the pond?
Because I don't see anybody else getting up.
You could just pass it down. Are you done? I think so.
We're a special group. So we need us.
Go on commissioner report.
Okay.
So this one doesn't match what they did.
This
isn't it.
This is it.
Actually be better if they did it this way.
Oh, here.
Yeah, that's where it is. It's like right here.
It's right next to the cul-de-sac.
So this is the road. So there shouldn't be any pond there.
No.
It's a backed up drain or something. I don't know, but it's.
No, it's a pond.
It's deep.
They dug it out for that.
Yeah.
That means to you, but
Oh, yeah.
if you care at this point.
From an
it
economic development standpoint,
I don't think it's.
It's gonna be a traffic issue. Okay.
Full of water.
it'll be picked up, I'm sure, in the reviews.
I hope so, because
No, see, this is.
we did them this way.
Kids stumbles out of Chipotle.
This was dated in September.
It's recent.
This is recent.
I hope he has.
This is not the plan that we approved.
There's a pond.
There's an overflow to the left.
Listen, this revised, this was done in September.
And it's full of water.
Okay.
It's so damn wet here.
Yeah.
Those are the plans I was given when I asked for the files for the address.
Exactly. Dom's worried if some guys.
Those are plans that we approved.
Trips and rolls for
Well,
us.
can you send Cheryl over to look at that also?
Dom is
What's going on?
For Chipotle about the pond?
Yeah. What it
What if
is.
that carpet?
At least put some koi fish in there and a nice fence, you know, I mean, come on.
Koi fish?
That would be nice.
These plans are for.
All right, I think we can
Motion
have
to
a motion to adjourn.
Most to adjourn.
Second.
Need a motion.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Wait, what am I voting for?
To adjourn.
Adjourn. Yes.
10:29.